Hello everyone. Welcome to a new and amazing part of What If Deku Ran an Orphanage. This story is written by Kyodon. Please remember to support them. The link to the story is in the bio below. Remember to like, sub, and share the video around for more amazing stories. Now let's start the story. Project Empower. Project Empower is a project suggested by Mr. Midoriya and given a level 2 priority. The project is focused on enhancing weaker individuals who wish to become heroes. This project spans multiple different divisions and is given authorization to use all available resources for this project, so long as it does not impact any higher priority projects. Today we'll be going over projects from multiple divisions, under the umbrella of Project Empower. Project Mood Ring. Project Mood Ring was suggested by Dr. Gatto, under Dr. Futaba's division. The thesis of this project is that emotions can be used to increase the power of quirks. As such, they wish to develop devices that can be used to convert emotion into power. These devices would be in the shape of multicolored rings. Each is capable of manifesting a specific emotion and turning it into power. We have 4 currently under development. A red ring, which is powered by rage. A green ring powered by willpower. A pink ring powered by love. And a blue ring powered by hope. While this project is certainly possible, it is currently facing a few major problems. First is that they have a hard time getting the emotions to properly manifest as power in the rings. And second is that whenever they do, the rings immediately explode. This project will likely take years to complete. Project Girl Power. Project Girl Power was proposed by Dr. K, under Dr. Hada's division. The idea behind this is that we already have multiple sources of additional chaos energy locked away inside our bodies. That energy comes from our reproductive parts, specifically eggs in the female case and fluids in the male's case. If we could somehow let a person develop and utilize that power for themselves, we could increase their power by several magnitudes. Currently, we have developed a method for females, but for males' utilization of this seems to be impossible. By injecting the eggs inside the womb with a newly developed fluid known only as magical juice, the eggs will become fertilized. But instead of becoming babies, they will become what are called magical eggs. These eggs will provide a significant amount of power to the user's quirk, as well as increasing the power of their body's overall abilities. While this project has been refined and tested, the most notable and unchangeable drawback to this process is that it removes the ability for that woman to have children. An additional and much less notable side effect is that whenever the user utilizes their power, their womb will glow. This project is unusable on men, as well as women who are already incapable of having children. The project is ready for use and already has one successful case of being used on a person. However, due to the drawback of the procedure, the limited pool of people it's available to, and the overall discomforting nature of it, it's unlikely many people will be. Project Tree Knight. Project Dark Knight started after the Botany Division made a new discovery. They discovered a new plant that can heavily increase the abilities of certain individuals. The process goes as such. First, we take what is known as the night nut and give it to the user, who swallows it. Once it reaches the stomach, it dissolves, and then its seeds pour into the rest of the body, where the conversion process begins. Some of the seeds are absorbed into various parts of the body and converted into a half-plant-like being. Once that happens, new glands and organs are grown inside the being. While the conversion process is happening, the subject will go into a hibernation-like slumber, and all their nerves will be sealed off, making them unable to feel pain. During this time, you'll need to make sure the subject is constantly exposed to sunlight. After about a week, the subject will awaken, changed by the nut. Their skin will turn green, and their entire body will now be composed of half-plant cells. The abilities they gain from this transformation are thus: while doing normal activities, they will experience no change. However, when doing strenuous activities, they will see a 30% boost in strength and speed, and they will receive an overall boost in stamina, about 60%. Their regeneration ability will increase significantly. Small wounds will close in seconds. Larger ones will heal in minutes. They will even be able to regenerate limbs and other things they normally wouldn't be able to, although they will still die if they're decapitated or if too much of the body is destroyed. The last ability they have is the ability to manipulate special organs in their muscles that can grow a bark-like material. This material can move to the outside and cover the skin, and the user can shape it however they please, making it into armor and weapons. As you can tell, this is an extremely potent power-up ability. However, there are drawbacks. First of all, to even undergo this process successfully, you have to be genetically compatible with it. For those incompatible, the process will likely kill or cripple them. Thankfully, we can test if they're compatible or not, so we don't have to risk trying it on any non-concurrent subjects or shut down the project entirely. Also, even if you are genetically compatible, there are still things that can disqualify you from the process. To survive the conversion, the subject must be at peak health. So if the subject suffers from any medical conditions, they are ineligible. Once the users are converted, they will suffer two main drawbacks. First is that they will be required to eat double the amount of food a normal person would have to consume. If they do any strenuous activities, this can go up quadruple the amount. On top of this, the user will have to take in a lot of sunlight, or else they will weaken significantly and could even die. While this project is ready to go, its limits regarding genetic compatibility will likely lead to this project's stagnation. Project mechanization. Project mechanization was suggested by Mr. Midoriya himself and is under the supervision of Dr. Hikari and Dr. Hada's divisions respectively. This project revolves around the idea of using robotic parts to augment people's abilities, turning them into cyborgs. Simply giving them robotic parts is no issue. The real issue is connecting it to their chaos energy and enhancing it. The use of fractals is ineffective. While androids are immune to the side effects of fractals, cyborgs are not. Chaos emeralds are effective, and given the right modifications, cyborgs can actually use chaos emeralds more effectively than most non-cyborgs. However, the chaos emeralds are one of the few resources we're not allowed to use for Project Empower. We have two current methods we can use to make this project work. The first is optimization, altering the body to make it perfectly optimized to use their quirk. Although the boost in power this offers is normally minimal, it can offer great amounts of control and minimize drawbacks. The second is enhancement. While fractals are not usable long-term, and chaos emeralds are too valuable, due to the cybernetic nature of the project, certain things that were off the table are now options. There were prototype emeralds that were deemed to be failures. Soul emeralds. Soul emeralds are far easier to make than chaos emeralds, much like fractals, but unlike fractals, they are capable of holding pure chaos energy. They're not nearly as powerful as a chaos emerald, but they still give a significant boost to one's ability. The reason it was deemed a failure, however, is because the materials that compose the soul emeralds are far worse at containing that power. For the most part, it's fine, but as soon as a person touches them, they would likely immediately begin to burn from the inside out. Cybernetic beings, on the other hand, can be augmented to be able to use this power without dying. After much testing, we've finally come up with a design that will use the soul emeralds to enhance their quirks as well as their physical capabilities. This project is currently ready for human testing and is seemingly perfect, if not for one issue. It was extremely expensive. The cybernetic parts by themselves cost millions, and the soul emeralds are even more expensive. It would be best to keep this project limited, for the sake of our budget. Project Cyberization. Project Cyberization was suggested by Dr. Kin and is currently on hold. The idea behind this is to abandon the body entirely, removing the soul from the body and placing it inside a robot. This process would ideally be done by crystallizing the soul, so it can be removed and placed into robotic bodies, using the same process we use with fractals to create androids. This project has been put on hold, as the idea of messing with souls has certain researchers hesitant. Although Dr. Kin has been allowed to continue his research due to Mr. Midoriya showing interest in the project, this project is to be kept under the highest level of secrecy, as I don't think I need to explain why the public might not like the idea of the Midoriya Foundation ripping out people's souls. Gah! Nara shouted. She was currently in the forest, in her XLR-8 form, rushing to Kyoshi, only for him to dodge to the side, avoiding her attempt to grab him. Nara continued to try and grab him, all the while Kyoshi weaved each attempt. Then Kyoshi ran away, deeper into the forest, with Nara following in pursuit. The two ran through the forest at speeds beyond that of a bullet train. Not bad. It's rare that anyone is able to move this fast. Kyoshi praised, turning around and running backward to talk to her. TCH, Nara grunted. She tried to speed up, but she was already going beyond her max. And he still wasn't breaking a sweat. BRR. Now, Nara growled. As much as it hurt her pride, she had no choice but to accept defeat here. She started slowing down, more and more trying to make sure she didn't get herself killed when she transformed back. BRR. Whoa, whoa, whoa. In a flash, Nara was back to normal and still running faster than her legs could support, causing her to trip and roll forward towards a tree. Before she could hit, however, Kyoshi dashed in and swooped her up. That was close. I insist you be more careful next time. Kyoshi lightly scolded. Still, that speed of yours is impressive. Maybe when you're all grown up, you can make me actually break a sweat in a race. Hee. Nara pouted. All right, I get it. But don't think you're the fastest just yet. There's still one thing I haven't tried yet. Ken was eating some cereal in the cafeteria when Nara walked up to him. Fuse with me, Nara demanded. Ken stopped eating and raised an eyebrow. One, no. Second, what? I lost in a race. Nara huffed, blushing a bit with embarrassment. She'd never been outsped before. XLR-8 had always been the fastest around. Sure, she knew she might not be as fast as someone like All Might. But that was All Might. Comparing herself to him was unfair in any regard. Although she was also aware that Achiko, the Gammas, and maybe full-power Kiba would be able to outspeed her, all of those came with caveats. The Gammas could outspeed her now, but when she grew up she'd probably be faster. And Achiko and Kiba could only go that fast for so long before the drawbacks to their quirks slowed them down. But Kyoshi was on another level. He was likely as fast, if not faster than All Might. And she'd never be able to catch up with him. At least not by herself. You lost a race? Ken asked, slightly shocked by that. Was it that new teacher guy? Is he that fast? Faster. His speed is ridiculous. Nara said. The only way I can outspeed him is with your help. So just fuse with me already. Ken pondered it. On the one hand, he didn't particularly like fusing. But on the other hand, his sister would probably be really annoying for a while if he refused. All right, but you owe me one. What are we even fusing XLR-8 with anyway? Not like I have any super fast forms. Just pick your fastest form, Nara told him before shuddering. Which is probably Stinkfly, huh? Probably. Flying is way faster than running. Ken said. Wonder what kind of fusion that'll be. Let's just get this over with. Nara sighed. We'll do some practice in the new form today, and then race Sensei in the morning tomorrow. Got it? Yeah, sure. Ken rolled his eyes. Just let me finish my cereal. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX stood at the edge of the forest. That's right. Today we'll show you who the fastest one around really is. Nara said. Ken, it's fusion time. Man, you are really fired up, huh? Ken said as he got ready. The two activated their Omnitrix, and in a flash of blue, the two had become one. What stood in their place was a red humanoid manta ray with big green eyes, black outlines on their face, and yellow horns. They had gills on their sides and yellow patagia under their arms. Lastly, they also had a long, thin red tail. Huh, that was not what I expected, Kyoshi said. It doesn't really look like a fusion. Yeah, we don't really understand how the whole fusion thing works either. The fusion said. Apparently, it's not really fusing the forms. It's kind of like how kids are born with quirks that are related to their parents, but much stronger. I see. So it'll take certain elements, but overall it's its own thing. Kyoshi said. How interesting. By the way, what exactly should I call you? Call us Jitre. The fusion said. Now let's race already. We can only do this once a day. My apologies. Let's not waste any more time then. Kyoshi said. Whoosh. With that, Kyoshi suddenly dashed away. You little. Jitre scowled before jumping into the air and quickly giving chase. Boom. Jitre flew forward after Kyoshi at insane speeds, cutting through the air like a knife. As they started catching up to Kyoshi very quickly. Oh wow, they weren't kidding. They've just started and they're already this fast. Kyoshi thought, as he then sped up significantly, actually putting in a bit of effort causing him to go significantly faster. Oh no you don't, Jitre said, before moving forward even faster. Boom. The two continued to race around the edge of the forest. The two of them both increased their speed little by little, as Jetray started catching up to Kyoshi bit by bit. Come on. So close. Jetray thought as they slowly decreased the distance between them and Kyoshi. How truly impressive, Kyoshi said. However, you're a few years off before you can catch me. Kaboom. Suddenly, Kyoshi shot forward again, the sound barrier breaking as he increased his speed to max and started outpacing Jetray once again. A sonic boom. Jetray gasped, looking at the fleeing Kyoshi in awe for a moment, before giving him a determined glare. We're not done yet. Jetray flapped their arms, as they mustered up every bit of power they could, making them go faster and faster. Boom, boom, boom. Small bursts formed around them, as they approached breaking the sound barrier. Come on, I'm so close, Jetray thought, and then everything went black. Oh, Kyoshi thought as he saw Jetray start to fall out of the sky. He turned around and caught Jetray, who slammed into Kyoshi. Oh, Kyoshi grunted as he spat out blood, the pain only getting worse as the two slammed into the ground. Kyoshi took the brunt of the force as his back skidded across the dirt. Ow, 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 ow. After skidding a few more miles, they came to a stop. The back of Kyoshi's robe had been completely destroyed, and there was some yellow pus-like stuff leaking out. Well, this is extremely painful, Kyoshi said casually, before looking down at the unconscious Jetray. Brrrr, 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 brrrr. In a flash of red, Jetray had turned back into Ken and Nara, both of them looking a bit scuffed up. Ugh. They both groaned. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX over our limit," Ken and Nara said at the same time. The two of them were laid up in the infirmary. Vera had fixed most of the injuries they'd gotten from crashing into Kyoshi, although they were still a bit groggy. Kyoshi, on the other hand, seemed perfectly fine, good as new after changing into a new set of clothes. "I apologize, Mr. Midoriya. I didn't expect them to suddenly run out of energy so soon." "It's fine. These forms don't work the same way normal human bodies work. I couldn't expect you to know how they work," Izuku said. "This is fully on them." "I'm sorry," Ken and Nara said simultaneously. Ken shot Nara a look that said, "I hope you're happy." And Nara just stuck her tongue out. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX his own fake knife. Giza watched as the two fought each other, with AKA by his side looking at the two in awe. Wow, those two are amazing, AKA said as she watched the knife fight. Yes, the two have grown quite adept at this. Almost so for children, Giza noted as he stroked his beard. However, there is one thing that actually worries me. Odo thrust his knife forward at Himiko's neck, but Himiko fell back onto her arms and delivered a powerful kick to his stomach. MMM. Odo struggled not to make a sound as he got the wind knocked out of him, and he stumbled back. Himiko jumped back onto her feet and ran at Odo. Odo swiped at Himiko with his knife to keep her away, but Himiko jumped over him. Odo panicked and quickly turned around to try and do something to stop her, but the moment he turned around, he found Himiko's knife was already at his throat. I win, Himiko sang, putting up a peace sign with her other hand and smiling cheerfully. AKA gave Himiko an applause. Nice one. That was amazing. Odo, on the other hand, didn't seem as enthused, scowling at Himiko before dropping his knife and walking away. Himiko looked confused. Huh? Did I do something bad? No, that's just the natural reaction when confronted with an unfair amount of talent, Giza said. It wounds the pride a bit, but he will get over it in time. It's not that Giza didn't understand. Odo had spent most of his life learning to fight, mostly against his will, using very harsh methods to become proficient in close-quarters combat, to minimize the use of his overly destructive quirk. Himiko had been training for a little over a month and was already better with a knife than him. She was a prodigy, with reflexes and muscle memory that were, strictly speaking, some of the best Giza had ever seen. It's like she was made for violence. Although, to be fair, Odo was still a little bit better than her when it came to pure hand-to-hand. That was likely little consolation for the poor boy. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Odo had had enough. He went back to his room to try and get some rest after his loss. And of course, his sister was there. Naturally, Ko asked why he looked so upset, and Odo gave her a quick answer before laying down. Then his sister started playing that obnoxious text-to-speech laugh on repeat, while silently laughing her heart out. Odo quickly rose up and glared at his sister before signing. "Could you stop?" "Oh, I'm sorry. Am I making you upset?" Ko signed back smugly. "I didn't think you could even feel emotions anymore, you smug bastard. Why are you like this?" Odo signed. "What did I ever do to you? The fact that you have to ask is a problem." Ko scowled before getting up and leaving. Odo shook his head. Why did she even come here? Eri took a deep breath as she held an apple core in her hand. She closed her eyes and focused on herself. Deep inside her, she felt power erupt. Attempting to burst out of her like a flood, she did everything she could to restrain it. Focus it. Turn it from a hurricane to a breeze. The power focused into her horn and then spread through her skin, cascading around her. And then she shut it down, closing off the flow of power like a dam blocking a river. The power vanished, and Eri opened her eyes. And in her hands was a half-eaten apple. Eri released the breath she was holding. So close, yet so far. She'd take a few minutes to relax, then try again. She would get this right. Very, very soon. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX crazy, I said in his head. Fu took off his shirt, and black wings grew out of his back. Then he jumped forward. Fu's wings caught onto the air and allowed him to slowly glide down towards the ground. All right, everything's good so far, Fu thought. The wings had been a pain in the butt for Fu up until now. First of all, Fu would never be able to fly. It took him a while to figure that out, but just growing wings did not allow one to fly, contrary to what his siblings and TV would lead him to believe. Birds and other flying things were made to fly. Their weight, body structure, and everything about them had evolved in order to be made to fly. And Fu's body was not. Yes, hawks could fly with his wings, and both Sheena and Kiba could grow wings. But those wings were made of lies. Those were quirks, specificity made to allow the user to fly, or in Sheena's case, just her cheating reality. Hawks fly via telekinesis. He can mentally control his wings and feathers and uses that to allow himself to fly. Sheena literally alters reality in order to fly. And Kiba's wings physically exuded invisible energy, allowing her to fly. Fu had none of that. So the best he could do was glide. And even that was an absolute pain. Because as it turns out, aerodynamics was hard. Most of his attempts ended in him gliding in circles, gliding uncontrollably in one or random directions, or the glider just not working and causing Fu to splat against the ground. All right, now I just need to learn how to glide better, and it'll almost be like I'm flying, Fu thought. And then a strong wind blew, causing Fu to fly backward and splattered into the house. Fu sighed. Back to the drawing board. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Kiba was doing push-ups in the training room. Normally this would be no problem, but with her new equipment that made it quite a bit harder. Her normal clothes were made to restrict her strength, but these ones were made to test it. Special weighted clothes that most normal people, and even pro heroes, couldn't so much as lift, let alone wear. These clothes made moving an exercise for Kiba, so basic push-ups were actually a challenge. Oof! Kiba groaned as she finished one last push-up before sitting down and taking a small break. Hinata, who had been standing next to her the entire time, kneeled down and gave her a bottle of blood. "Thank you, Hinata," Kiba said, before taking a long sip. "Watching you exercise is thanks enough, Lady Kiba," Hinata said cheerfully. Kiba finished drinking and handed the bottle back to Hinata, who ran off to go refill it. "All right, back to work." With that, Kiba went back to her push-ups. Sanson was in the forest, surrounded by Beowulfs. Raw. The Beowulfs charged at her, claws and teeth bared. The first one attempted to bite her, but Sanson turned into a puddle and ducked under it, causing the monster to accidentally charge into another Beowulf. Another Beowulf attempted to strike down at Sanson with its claw, but she backed up to avoid it. The Beowulfs tried to pounce on her, but she moved in between their legs to avoid them. Recent events had reminded Sanson that she was not immune to attacks. She could be attacked, and she could die from certain attacks. Hence, she decided she needed to learn how to dodge. And so she'd spend the rest of the evening dodging these Beowulfs. Twip, 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 twip. Webs smacked into targets that had been set up outside. Shiruku stood a good distance away and looked at the targets. Only one bullseye. Shiruku pouted. How is Fuku so good at this? Webs were the most important part of Shiruku's arsenal. She wasn't the fastest, nor was she the strongest. But her webs were a useful tool, unique to her. Of course, she would still keep up her strength and speed training, but webs would be her focus. Meaning she'd been spending a lot of time getting her aim right. Bwaff. Yami vomited grim goop all over the floor. As he was vomiting it up, the grim was already taking shape, and a few seconds after it was spat out, the Beowulf had already formed. Ugh. Yami groaned. He'd been making grim for quite a while. And while there wasn't a direct drawback to him making grim, he was still vomiting stuff, which meant if he spat out good for long enough, he couldn't breathe. But he had to keep going. His inarguably biggest weakness was how long it took him to make grim on the spot. Sure, he could make smaller grim pretty quickly, but those were only so useful. If he could master quick spawning, then his direct combat ability would go up dramatically. There was no improvement without suffering after all. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr that had been made for him. "You can do it, Kai," Kay shouted from on top of his head. "Thanks, big sis," Kai said, his mouth filled with dumbbells and his head filled with motivation. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX The fireball exploded on contact and knocked down the target. Netsu, who was standing not too far away, looked at the result. The target was mostly destroyed, but the two dummies that had been next to it had some minor burns on them. Darn it, Netsu sighed. He was improving. Before, anything that got close to his attacks was likely to get serious injuries. But still, he had to do better. Couldn't have a hero going around burning the people he was trying to save. Slam. In the forest, Ken in his heat blast form rocketed into the earth, hard enough to bury the upper half of his body. Ow, Ken grunted. That was another failed attempt to fly using heat blast. Sure, Stinkfly could fly really easily, but what if he needed to fly and he wasn't heat blast? Or what if he needed to fly and set things on fire? And so he decided to learn how to fly with heat blast. Ugh. Ken groaned as he pulled himself out of the ground. Netsu was right. This is way harder than it looks. Nara stood in front of a dummy in her diamond head form. Well, here goes nothing. She placed her hand on the dummy's face, and then crystals started coming out and covering the dummy's body. Slowly, the crystal spread over its entire body until it was completely trapped in the crystal. Crack! Nara broke off her hand from the dummy, leaving it trapped. Yes, it worked. Yet another special move was attained. It would take a bit more optimizing, but Nara was confident this would be useful. Eventually, Knees stood still, holding her breath as she engaged in a very important task. Juggling. Now that might not have sounded very important, but for her, it was important training. By juggling a ball with her vectors, it helped improve her control over them. Because her biggest problem was controlling her vectors. Her auther had already done most of the legwork when it came to strengthening their body and quirk. However, all the dexterity and control she had did not carry over to Knees. Meaning when she first tried to use her quirk, her vectors would often move around a bit more wildly than she would like, which could cause problems if she wanted to use them in combat. Currently, Knees was juggling a ball between her 4 vectors slowly. All right, let's try a bit faster. Knees thought to herself. She increased the speed of her juggling a bit, and everything was fine. A couple minutes later, she decided to go a bit faster. This continued for about 20 minutes. slowly increasing the speed every 3 or so minutes until, bam, one of her vectors missed the ball and it slammed into her wall. Nee sighed and looked at the ball sadly. I didn't even go that fast. It was a mystery to her how her other them operated so quickly and precisely, and would remain a mystery because she couldn't communicate with her. She took a deep breath. It's okay. I can just keep trying, or I could watch some anime. No. Bad knees. Bad. Training first, then anime. Maybe treat myself to a nice ice cream. Yeah, that sounds good. Training, then anime and ice cream. Let's go? With that, Knees picked up the ball with her vector and started juggling again. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX currently in the training room, holding a rifle and shooting at some targets. This rifle wasn't a normal rifle. It was designed to shoot special darts that would inject parts of herself into the target. Of course, Izuku had some reservations about giving children guns, but he quickly realized that quirks were far more dangerous than almost any gun out there, and so he relented. AKA, lunch is ready, Kyoka said, popping into the training room to tell her that. I will eat. When this is the target. Is annihilated, AKA shouted as she reloaded her gun. Kyoka rolled her eyes. I'll just leave her food in the fridge. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX finding her sitting at her desk, hunched over her notebook. "Just a second, Mom," Alice said as she continued writing in her notebook. Chol walked up to Alice and looked at what she was writing. She was just writing her name over and over and over again, very quickly and sloppily. "Speed writing again?" Chol asked. "Yup. If I'm going to be useful, I need to learn how to write fast," Alice said cheerfully as she turned the page and started writing again. Chol smiled a bit and rubbed her daughter's hair. "What an earnest girl I've raised. Yaba, G, and Inu were all running around the track in the backyard, all of them moving in perfect sync. "None of you need a break, huh?" Yaba asked her sisters. "Do you?" G asked in return. "Not at all." Jabba smirked. "Let's go faster. And change formation." "Yezur," G and Inu shouted. Lu took a deep breath and cocked his fist back. Currently, Lu was in the lab, in one of the test chambers, staring down a block of steel. Lu was covered in his red aura from Chaos Boost, but that wasn't what he was going to use to strike. Instead, he was going to use a new special move. Lu could not hold on to too much chaos energy at once, but what if he didn't have to hold on to it? What if Lu could summon the energy and release it instantaneously, not giving it any time to harm his body? If he could master this, then he could greatly increase the power of his attacks. Emphasis on the word if. Lu swung his fist forward. Ding. And it collided with the steel, doing no damage, and hurting Li's hand. Lu didn't even have time to register the pain before the second part of his failed attack made everything so much worse. Kaboom. Li's fist exploded, destroying the steel black, but sending Lu flying back, hitting the wall of the test chamber and knocking him unconscious, as well as leaving Lu with a burned and broken hand. This was going to be a long and very painful road. Giza was walking into the cafeteria from the kitchen with a bowl of ramen in his hand. He sat down and decided to finally address something. "Himiko, I can sense you." "Oh, well." Himiko groaned as she climbed out from under a table behind him, with a disappointed look on her face. "How? I did what you said and made sure my footsteps were quiet." "True, your footsteps were notably harder to hear. If I were slightly less experienced, even with my hearing, I might have chalked the odd sound I heard to background noise," Giza admitted. "But you far from mastered the technique. But that wasn't your real problem. Your real was your excitement. I could feel it from the moment you started tailing me." "Huh? You can feel other people's emotions?" "No fair." Himiko pouted as she sat next to Giza. "Everyone can, with enough training. And even without training, some people can still detect things like malicious internet." Giza explained. "You must learn to suppress your aura and emotions, master your movement techniques, and learn how to fully analyze and utilize your environment. Then you will be able to move on to even more advanced techniques." "I will, sensei," Himiko said with a crazed smile. I'll be the best ninja in the world. With your potential, I don't doubt it. Giza thought to himself as he started eating his ramen. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX was currently outside, holding a stopwatch, in order to help out Kano, who was flying in front of her, with weights tied to her feet. Grrrrrrrrrr. Kano grits her teeth, sweat pouring down all over her body, as she struggled to keep flapping her wings. Just a few more seconds, so close, done. Shiroku shouted as the clock reached 10 minutes. Slam. Immediately Kano stopped, and both she and the weight fell onto the floor. Ugh, Kano groaned, and Shiroku immediately went over to help her up, holding her up with her shoulder. That was great, Kano. Let's go get you some O-negative, you've earned it, Shiroku said. Oh, Shiroku, you've taken the words right out of my mouth. Kano smiled, as the two left the training room. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX noticed you don't really like to use your quirk much during training, Kiba told him. Well, today's your lucky day. Today, I'll allow you to use your quirk against me. The great Lady Kiba. Odo stopped what he was doing and raised an eyebrow at her. Kiba's mood immediately soured, and she pouted. What? Are you saying I can't take it? I'll have you know I have the greatest endurance of anyone here. Plus my great regeneration will allow me to dash. Go away. It was a whisper, just a slight whisper. Something that would normally not even be heard over Kiba's talking. Boom. But it was enough to create a strong sonic wave in front of him that sent Kiba flying into the wall. Huh. Kiba shrugged. Her dress was torn a bit, but ultimately she was fine. So it seems like the caretaker wasn't exaggerating. Still, you're going to need more than that to dash. Enough. Kaboom. This time Odo spoke in a slightly louder whisper, just below what one would call a normal speaking voice. But even still the sonic wave it emitted smacked into Kiba even harder, pinning her against the wall and destroying some of her clothes. Huh. I actually felt that one, Kiba said, shaking off the hit. But are we done with the weak sucker punches now? I want to see your real power. Odo's eyes widened as he saw Kiba, seemingly unfazed by that attack. Back when he was training the quirk breeders, no one, not even their best trainers, got off unharmed from his whispers. That much would normally hospitalize people. How are you still standing? This time Odo spoke in a normal speaking voice, and the sonic wave burst from his mouth, completely encompassing the side of the room he was facing. Kiba barely had time to bring up her arms and block before the shockwave slammed into, sending her flying back into the wall again. This one was different from the other ones. This one hurt. The force made Kiba's bones shiver and tore cuts into her flesh, while simultaneously blowing out her eardrums, causing blood to leak out of her ears. The entire room shook from the force of the attack like an earthquake had gone off. Fortunately, it was over very quickly, and Kiba was freed from the pressure of the attack. Her body immediately started to heal whatever injury she had. Okay, that was a lot. Kiba groaned as she tried very hard not to acknowledge the pain or the fact that she was now naked due to the last attack completely destroying her clothes. But that wasn't your best, was it? Come on, give it to me. Scream. Odo was in disbelief. This was impossible. No one could withstand him talking so easily. It just couldn't happen. And yet, Kiba stood in front of him, unharmed. Sure, she'd taken some damage, but it had been very minor considering the weight of the attack she just took, and her quirk healed it in seconds. And now she wants more? He seriously wouldn't have believed it, had it not just happened. Could she take his max power? He'd only ever used it once by accident, and never again because it destroyed the facility he was in, as well as the land around it. He'd thought that anyone taking that would be utterly impossible, but Kiba had already done the impossible, right in front of him. Odo coughed a bit, clearing his throat. This was going to hurt his throat quite a bit, but he had to know if she could take it. Go, Crockham. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX started to shake intensely before suddenly stopping. Either that was a very abrupt earthquake, the lab just did something they shouldn't have, or the kids are taking a sparring match too far, Izuku said to himself with a sigh. I have a feeling I know the answer. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX with blood running down her entire body. Her healing quirk was already on healing the patches of skin that had been torn off, the organs that got ruptured, and the bones that were snapped, as well as healing her ears. Okay, that was gonna need a second. Kiba groaned. Maybe lay down for a second. She survived, she's not okay, but she's not gonna die. Odo thought he was so shocked, he didn't even pay any mind to how much his throat hurt. On that day, Odo felt like the world around him crumbled. He wasn't sure how to feel about it. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX bullseye, but not quite hitting it. This is harder than it looks, Sakyo commented, holding a bow she made out of negative energy. Why ya, Fuku said. She'd been dragged along to help Sakyo practice. Thankfully, Sakyo had enough tact to let her get her hoodie before they started. But you're really good at it. Just a bit more practice, and you'll be able to hit bullseyes easily. I hope you're right, Sakyo said. By the way, what made you want to pick up archery? If you don't mind telling me, Fuku asked nervously. I don't mind. I was watching some anime and realized I lacked something. Sakyo explained. Weapons. Weapons can help me out a lot. They can help me fight at close range, and with a bow, I found that focusing dark energy into a small arrow not only can help pierce through opponents easier, but it also increases its power. And it can do this. Boom. Suddenly the arrow exploded, destroying the target and causing Fuku to jump back. Ah! Fuku shouted in fear, her face turning white under her hood. Warn me before you do that. Just because you're used to explosions doesn't mean everyone else is. Sorry. Sakyo apologized. And now please excuse me. Fuku blushed under her hood. I need to go pass gas. Gentle, do you really think this is a good idea? La Brava asked as she and Gentle walked the streets while disguised in trench coats. It will be fine, La Brava. Gentle reassured her. Besides, we can't stay cooped up in that ship forever. While I understand the importance of hiding, doing it forever will make life near meaningless. And you deserve better. Oh, Gentle. La Brave brushed, a smile crawling up her face. You charm her. So where are we going first? First I was thinking of having some breakfast, and then going to a theater. Gentle said as he rubbed his mustache. I know a place that serves only the most delicious tea. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX already dead. I won't just give up on you. I made a promise that we'd grow old together. I won't go back on that. Sniff, sniff. La Brava and Gentle sat in the movie theater, both of them tearing up at the movie. So beautiful, La Brava whispered through her tears. Never give up, young man. Gentle sniffled. Never give up. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX The two were now in a large bookstore, looking for books to read together. Excellent. Gentle found a nearby, cozy reading area and sat down. Come. La Brava quickly ran to him and sat on his lap. Opening the book, the two of them started reading. A few minutes later, a man walked past and smiled at them. So good to see a father reading with his daughter. And immediately, La Brava was brought out of the book, and her mood turned from joyful to enraged as a scowl formed on her face. Excuse me? I'm short, damn it. I'm not a child. Do children have these? La Brava opened her coat to reveal her body, which had an adult figure despite her size, shocking the man. Oh, I am so sorry. The man stammered. You better me. Why does every time someone sees a short person they assume it's a kid? La Brava ranted. Excuse me for being small. I apologize. She dislikes being mistaken for a child. Gentle explained. It's a bit of a sore spot for her. Right, no? I should have minded my business. The man said, before promptly leaving. I'm so sorry. Humph. The nerve of people. La Brava pouted. Perhaps we should read somewhere less public. Gentle said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX sat up against a tree. Well then, shall we continue? Gentle asked. La Brava didn't respond. It looked like she had something to say, but didn't know if she wanted to say it. La Brava, what's wrong? Gentle asked, giving his companion a worried look. Do you think Midoriya could change my appearance? La Brava asked as she looked down at herself. Like making me taller. Labarva, if that is what you wish, you may do so. But know that I love you, regardless of what you look like. Gentle reassured her. I know, Labrava said, giving him a small smile, before frowning again. But darn it, I hate when people think I'm a child. Because it always ends with people calling you a pedo. To be fair, that didn't even happen this time. Gentle pointed out. Thankfully. But I have a feeling this won't stop happening if we don't do something about it. La Bravo argued. And La Bravo once again looked down at herself. I know you said you love me no matter what, but maybe if I was prettier you could love me just a bit more. Gentle sighed and shook his head before kissing La Brava on the forehead. Dear La Brava, the reason I adore you has nothing to do with your looks. You stayed by my side when no one else would. We have a bond that transcends anything physical. La Brava blushed intensely. Oh, Gentle. Gentle scowled and pulled out his phone before answering it. My apologies, but I was having a rather touching moment. I'm sure you were, Kaza said, sounding about as annoyed as Gentle. But you need to get back to the ship. You're late. Gentle sighed. Very well. We will be back shortly. And with that, Kaza hung up. It appears our alone time is up. Gentle said sadly. Let us go, La Brava. Yeah, we better not keep them waiting, La Brava said, still blushing up a storm. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX outskirts of town. There they found the cloud splitter parked behind it, out of sight. Gentle and La Brava walked up to one of the bridges that were connected to the ship, and they saw Kaza and the rest of the sky pirates, except Roru, who were waiting for her. Were you two screwing? Is that why you took so long? Yo-Yo asked, looking half annoyed and half curious. Because if so, good on you, La Brava. As a fellow short girl, I fully support you. Who cares, just get on the ship. Kaza shouted at them. Why are you so angry? We just got here. La Brava defended. Kaza scowled. Because the longer we stay docked, the better chance that we'll be. Not so fast. Damn it. Kaza swore. Everyone looked behind Gentle and La Brava and saw a cloaked woman standing there. Finally, I've found you, said the woman, and all of them could see a smirk from under her clothes. La Brava's eyes widened. That voice. The horrible villains that corrupted my dear cousin. The woman shouted, as suddenly she started to glow with pink energy from under her cloak. Ah shit. Kaza cursed. Is this who I think it is? Shift asked, taking out his sword. Oh, we are so fucked. Ruff said. La Brava, is this her? Gentle asked his lover. La Brava nodded. It's her. My cousin. #1 hero of France. Let us blossom. Let us sing. The song of love and victory. The woman shouted as she threw off her cloak, revealing a brilliant pink light. Brienne. Brienne. Ribrienne. Let us blossom. Let us sing. The song of love and victory. Shouted Ribrienne as threw off her cloak, revealing a blinding pink light. Brienne. Brienne. Ribrienne. What the hell is she doing? Yo-Yo shouted as she shielded her eyes from the light. She's transforming. Pei explained, also covering her eyes. Like hell she is. Kaza shouted, before opening her mouth, charging up a blast, and firing a beam of fire at the center of the light. Kaboom! The beam hit, causing an explosion, smoke, and dust rising up, and obscuring Ribrienne from sight. You think that got her? Yo-Yo asked hopefully. Well, that was rude. Came Ribrienne's voice from the smoke. Not a chance in hell, Kaza growled. The smoke cleared, and it revealed Ribrienne, transformed and unharmed. She was an extremely, almost comically fat woman, with a body wider than a barrel and arms and legs as thick as watermelons, that jiggled every time she moved. She wore a strange sleeveless red and green dress, with matching red pants and green boots. Her dress also had a weird hood that wrapped around her pudgy face and had a weird antenna sticking out of it. Did she just take no damage from that? Yo-Yo pointed out. And also, did she just get fat? Her quirk is called the power of love, La Brava explained. She can absorb love and turn it into power. That fat is actually love that she uses to protect her body like armor. She stole the idea from Fat Gum. It's almost impossible to get through. Maiden's charge, Ribrienne shouted, before curling up into a ball and rolling in place for a few seconds, building up speed before charging at them. Gently rebound. Gentle shouted as he made the air in front of him elastic and jumped back a bit. Ribrian rammed right into the elastic air, slowing her down to a near stop as she slowly stretched through the air before ripping through it entirely. "What? Act!" Gentle shouted before Ribrian rammed into him, sending him flying into the side of the ship, blood flying out of his mouth. "Gentle!" La Brava screamed out, tears running down her face. "Humph!" Ribrian jumped up and stopped being a ball, before turning towards the pirates and making a heart with her hand. Pretty cannon. Pink energy gathered inside her hands before launching out a heart-shaped energy blast right at the pirates. Kaza shot a fireball at it, but the energy just barreled through it right at them. Everyone jumped out of the way, barely dodging it in time and letting the blast fly past them, up into the sky, before exploding in the air. "Shit, she's not fucking around," Yo-Yo shouted. "Shift. Support me." Pei sends everything at her. "Lilith, go get that," Kaza ordered. "And Roru, ready the cannons. Rest of you on general support. Look for an opportunity and make sure that gets to me." With orders given, Kaza launched herself at Ribrian, attempting to grab her, only for Ribrian to bat her hand away, before landing a devastating punch on the side of her face, sending her flying to the left. "Gah!" Kaza tumbled across the ground, before using her claws to slow and eventually stop herself. "Fuck!" She rubbed the side of her face, which still stung from Ribrian's punch. "Damn, she hits hard." "Pretty cannon," Ribrian shouted as she shot another heart at Kaza. Kaza flew up, avoiding the blast. "Oomph. Pretty love machine gun," Ribrian shouted, as suddenly a bunch of smaller energy hearts at her. Kaza flew around, trying to dodge them until one of them hit her in the wing, stopping her and allowing her to get bombarded by the rest of the hearts, which exploded along her body, creating small bruises and burns with each hit as she fell to the ground. With her opponent grounded, Ribrian charged up a more powerful attack. "Pretty ca-dash." "Enough." Ribrian stopped her attack when she heard her cousin shout. She turned to the left and saw La Brava standing there, tears in her eyes, looking absolutely furious. "Just stop," La Brava shouted at her. "Are you trying to kill everyone here?" Ribrian scoffed. "Minami, these cretins won't die from this. Stop exaggerating. And now that we're talking, what on earth were you thinking? Hacking into the Midoriya Foundation, causing a worldwide panic. Do you know how many people you've killed? Do you know how many people would have died if I didn't do that?" La Bravo argued. "Politicians would have kicked the can on the Midoriya's cure for years, trying to get some kind of advantage and keep him from getting too much power. Disease would have killed millions in that time. But I stopped that by getting the public mad and applying pressure on the government before they could spew any lies to sate them. We got that cure for people in need all around the world." "I didn't think about it that way." Ribrian actually stopped for a moment, considering La Brava's words, before skating her head and putting her determined look back on. "Be that as it may, I won't allow my cousin to go around gallivanting with villains." "Why? Because it'll hurt your reputation." La Brava spat. "Oh please, Minami. I'm so beloved in France that nothing you do could harm my sparkling reputation." Ribrian boasted, before getting serious again. "I'm doing this because I'm worried about your safety. These people are criminals. They won't hesitate to kill you if you get in their way." "Do you really believe that?" "Gentle would never hurt a fly if he didn't have to," La Bravo argued. "And the Sky Pirates have never killed anyone. Most of them were vigilantes before they became pirates." "Well, excuse me if I don't trust the integrity of criminals I've never met," Ribrian shouted back. "And even if that were true, there's still the most important threat to your safety. The Midoriya Foundation. You hacked them and then teamed up with the Sky Pirates, who stole his ship and attacked them regularly. Izuku Midoriya is the most powerful man on the planet, and eventually, he will find you and your friends, and you will get taken in. And when that happens, it won't be pretty. But if I take you down, then maybe I can use my influence to at least save you." "Brienne." La Brava softened for a second and sighed. As much as she'd love to simply tell her that she was working for the guy, she couldn't, lest she actually make an enemy of the most influential man on the planet. "Be that as it may, I still stand by my decisions. I think I did the right thing. And even if I did, I'd never leave Gentle's side." Ribrian scowled. "Do you really love that man? True, he dresses rather well and keeps himself well-groomed, but he's still a villain." La Brava smiled. "That's right. And he stole my heart. Crockham." Suddenly Ribrian was bombarded by the cannons of the Cloud Splitter, which had been getting ready while La Brava and her had been taking. Kaboom! 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 The cannons fired again and again, down on Ribrian's location, creating a massive cloud of smoke and shaking the earth with each shot. After a while longer, the cannons stopped. They were red hot, which meant they couldn't fire anymore due to overheating. For a moment, there was silence, as the massive cloud of smoke and rubble around where Ribrian was standing started to settle. Max Love Cannon. Kaboom! Suddenly, a massive heart burst out of the smoke and smashed into one of the cannons, causing it to explode. The smoke cleared, revealing Ribrian, mostly unharmed. The only sign that she'd been attacked at all was her burned and torn-up clothing. Max Love! Ribrian shouted as she charged up another attack. Cannon! Kaboom! Another cannon was destroyed. Meanwhile, back with Kaza, Yo-Yo ran up to her, while Ribrian was distracted destroying the cannons. Hey, present from Lilith, Yo-Yo said, handing the captain a mite fruit that Izuku had given them just in case. Kaza took the fruit and stood up. Roru, can the ship still fly? The cannons on the right side are destroyed, but the flight systems are still fully operational, Roru said over comms. Good. Where the hell are Pei's monsters? Kaza shouted, waiting for the right time. I plan to attack once she's done with the cannons. Pei said using the comms. All right, everyone, get on the ship. Me and Pei's monsters will hold her off, while you guys run. Kaza explained. Wait, but what about you? Yo-Yo asked. Best case scenario, I manage to get away and meet up with you all later, Kaza said. And worst case scenario, I get captured. Whoa, you sure about that, boss? Yo-Yo asked. Her eyes widened with both shock and respect. I took up the title of captain, meaning I have to take up the responsibility as well. Kaza explained as she looked down at the fruit. And this is the only way I see us getting out of this. With that, Kaza ate the fruit, quickly devouring it down to its core, before throwing that aside. Rag! Kaza roared, as she felt power surge through her veins. Go! Kaboom! Meanwhile, Ribrian finished destroying the final cannon and stopped her assault, as she started desperately searching around the smoke. Manami! Manami! I'm right here. La Brava walked out of the smoke, completely unharmed, much to Ribrian's shock. I told you, they wouldn't hurt me. Shift used his quirk on me to make sure I wasn't harmed while the cannons were hitting you. I see a clever trap, Ribrian smirked. But it won't work on me. That's fine. You get distracted very easily. La Brava said. Rah! Suddenly, hundreds of monsters that all looked like sea life combined with birds rushed off of the ship and went straight at Ribrian. TCH. Pretty love machine gun. Ribrian shot out dozens of hearts with rapid fire. That slammed into the monsters, destroying dozens of them each and holding back the horde. Meanwhile, Gentle came in and grabbed La Brava before bouncing away back towards the ship. What are we going to do now? La Brava asked once they were back on the ship. The captain is going to hold her off while we retreat, Gentle said, looking extremely remorsefully. She's simply too strong. La Brava frowned and leaned into Gentle to comfort him, knowing that, even if they weren't close, leaving an ally behind was hard for him. I know. Meanwhile, Ribrian had finished turning the entire horde back into paint and looked up at the ship. They went back to that ship. Are they trying to retreat? Huh. As if I would let TH dash. Suddenly, she was interrupted by Kaza, rushing her from the side, grabbing her head, forcing her down, and dragging the side of her head through the dirt as she flew. She's flying faster? Ribrian noted, before punching Kaza in the face and then spinning them around, reversing their position, slamming Kaza in the dirt with Ribrian on top of her. Slam, 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 slam. Ribrian punched Kaza repeatedly, the first punch creating a crater around them, and each punch after that made it deeper and wider. She cocked back her fist, charging it with even more energy for one final punch, when suddenly, Kaza shot her in the face with an intense beam of blue flames. Ack! Ribrian shouted out in shock, as she quickly used one of her arms to cover her face. These flames are far more intense than last time. She definitely increased her power somehow. Shink! While Ribrian was distracted by her fire, Kaza sneakily stabbed her in the back with her tail. Unfortunately, all it hit was Ribrian's fake fat, doing no real damage to her. Kaza took out her tail but Ribrian grabbed it, and then jumped up, back flipping and lifting Kaza into the air with her, before landing and slamming her down into the ground, hard. Ack! Kaza felt the wind get knocked out of her, leaving her stunned, and Ribrian didn't let up. Slam! 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 Ribrian slammed Kaza into the ground again and again, using her tail to throw her around like a flail. Then, Ribrian, still holding her tail, started spinning in place. Faster, faster, and faster, until the two of them were a blur. Lovely! Cyclone! Ribrian shouted, before using the momentum to toss Kaza aside, far, far away. With Kaza temporarily taken care of, Ribrian turned her attention back to the ship, which was starting up and moving above the ground, slowly rising into the air. No! Ribrian shouted, before pouring powder into her legs and jumping at the ship. Back on the ship, Roru was in the steering room, looking at the machines, and saw Ribrian coming at them fast. Activating shields and cloaking. The shields activated, making the ship invisible, and Ribrian smacked against the shields, bouncing off of them like a ball. Back on the deck, Yo-Yo and Ruff breathed a sigh of relief, seeing Ribrian get bounced off their shields. Hey, we good? Yo-Yo asked through the comms. Yeah, we should be. Our altitude is steadily increasing. We should be out of her range soon. Roru said. Huh, what's oh shit? Suddenly, everyone could see a brilliant pink glow rising up from the ground. The hell is that? Lilith asked. La Brava's eyes widened. Oh no. Suddenly, they saw Ribrian's face rise up, but now it was the size of a building, rising up as she grew larger and larger until she towered over them. A massive Ribrian, the size of a skyscraper, looking down on them. Super Ribrian, La Brava explained. Smash. Ribrian smashed her fist into the barrier, breaking it apart and causing the whole ship to shake. Shit, our shields are done. We can't take another hit like that. Roru shouted over comms. It'll take a while for them to come back online. Do not let Ribrian hit us again. I repeat, do not let Ribrian hit us again. La Brava, give me your strength. Gentle said, knowing what he had to do. La Brava nodded and activated her quirk, covering Gentle in a pink glow. RHH. Ruff took all the barrels of sand that were on deck and burst them open, sending the sand up at Ribrian's face. Gah? How rude. Ribrian cried as she swatted at the sand to no avail, before eventually getting her focus back and raising her fist to punch the ship once again. Gentle jumped up at Ribrian, this time activating his quirk to the max, using all of his and La Brava's power to create massive walls and multiple layers of elasticity. Rebound. Ribrian punched the elastic air, her fist going through it, but the air just barely managed to hold it back before it could reach the ship. Damn it. The ship kept rising up and was now at Ribrian's head, and the hero knew she had to take this ship down now. She used her other hand to try and grab the ship, but suddenly, Kaza flew in from the side, having charged up her mouth blast to the max, and fired a beam of pure white fire at her arm, cutting it off. Growling. You again. Ribrian glared at Kaza as the arm of her giant avatar grew back. Love song. Ribrian opened her mouth and a giant pink beam flew out of her mouth, headed right at Kaza. Kaza could only look at the beam and know this was it. It was too fast and too big to dodge, and there was no way she'd be able to keep fighting after getting hit by that. You guys better get away, Kaza thought, and then the beam hit. Crack-a-cum. The beam burst on impact, creating a massive explosion where Kaza had been flying. And from the smoke of that explosion, Kaza's broken, burnt, and battered body fell towards the ground. Before she could fall too far, however, Ribrian rushed forward and caught her in her giant palms. Safe altitude reached. Shields are ready. Activating thrusters. Go, Rower shouted. The shield's thrusters turned on, causing the ship to rocket away, and as the shield turned on, allowing them to vanish completely. Ribrian looked at the spot where the ship had vanished, with a scowl on her face, before looking down at Kaza in her hand. So you sacrificed yourself so your friends could get away. How noble. Perhaps you pirates are so loveless after all. Although I still won't relinquish my cousin to you. With that, Ribrian kneeled down, gently setting the heavily injured captain down on the ground, before dispelling her giant energy avatar, revealing the real Ribrian which had been hidden in its chest. Once Ribrian landed, Her body glowed, and the fake fat dissipated, revealing her true form. A fairly slim and attractive young woman, with long blonde hair. "First I'll need to call an ambulance, then a tailor," Ribrian said, looking down at her tattered and burnt-up dress. "Credit where credit is due. Those villains were the toughest foes I've faced in a while. This will prove to be a challenge if they keep running on dash." And then Ribrian felt something hit the back of her head hard, and everything went black. Slam. "Damn it," Yo-Yo shouted as she punched the side of the ship in frustration. Getting away from Ribrian had come as a massive relief to everyone on board the ship, but after that, they all had to take in that Kaza had in fact sacrificed herself to ensure their escape. "Wow, to think that woman would actually let herself get taken down for our sake," Lilith said. Despite her attitude, she always took her job very seriously. Shift added, "It's what made me respect her." "So what now?" Pei asked the rest of the crew. "We need to rescue her," Gentle proposed, before falling to one knee and clutching his chest, some more blood leaking out of his mouth. "Gentle," La Brava cried, running up to try and support the man as best she could. "TCH, much as I hate to say it, we're in no shape to fight, and even if we could, we couldn't beat her anyway." Yo-Yo spat, before activating her comms. "Hey, Brains, you have any idea how to rescue the captain?" "Unfortunately, no." Roru sighed. "As much fun as that would be to plan, we don't really need to worry about that." Lowering shields. "Huh." Yo-Yo and everyone else looked confused, as the shields lowered for a second, only for Gamma 2 to fly onto the deck of the ship, holding the unconscious and heavily injured body of Kaza. "Sup?" Gamma 2 greeted. "Captain," Yo-Yo cried out joyfully. "You got her?" She is alive, right?" Lilith asked, looking at the poor state the captain was in. "Yeah, but she's gonna need some medical attention and a long time to recuperate. At least if we don't use Midoriya tech." Gamma 2 explained. "How did you get her away from Brienne?" La Brava asked, happy but very confused. "Oh, that was easy. Once the fight was over and she powered down, Gamma 1 just sneaked up behind her and gave her a quick bonk on the noggin." Gamma 2 told them. "Not the most heroic way to go about it, but it's definitely the most efficient." "Let's get her to the med bay," Yo-Yo shouted. "Don't worry, Captain. We're going to get you patched up." With the completion of the project, the first iteration of the Midoriya Foundation Private Army has been founded. Troops. Numbering at 1.5 million troops and rising, the Midoriya Foundation Private Army consists of 42% human troops and 58% androids. The androids assigned to standard roles inside the army are new standard combat model androids, designed to be noticeably stronger than the standard villain, but also cheap and efficient to mass produce. The troop number also does not count non-sentient androids and robots, which the Midoriya Foundation has plenty of, both for combat and non-combat purposes. Armor. Produced by Project Dress Up, the Midoriya Foundation armor comes in 4 variations. The first is the standard armor. Full-body armor that provides protection from concussive force, extreme heat, extreme cold, and bladed weapons. The armor is tough enough to get hit by a bus and not crack, and the internal shock absorbers would keep the wearer from experiencing any harm. The visors in the helmet are also equipped with infrared sensors and health scanners, made to detect targets and judge the health of allies and civilians. The next armor is the flight armor. This armor has everything the standard armor has, and more. Its most notable feature is a jetpack located on the back of it, allowing the users to fly with ease, provided they've been trained to use it. The suit itself is augmented to be able to take falls better than the standard suit, although it is also equipped with an emergency parachute in case of jetpack failure. Lastly, the visor of this suit is built with telescopic vision mode, allowing the user to see things from much farther away. Next, we have the aquatic armor, a far bulkier armor that will allow personnel to operate in the deep sea. It carries enough oxygen to last 2 days, can withstand tremendous amounts of water pressure, and can withstand greater amounts of cold and heat than the standard armor. It's also equipped with night vision and emergency lights, so it can operate in the dark. Mechanized parts are located in the arms and legs, to allow the users to still freely move in the heavy armor. Lastly, it has jets built in across the armor, to allow them to move freely through the water. The current final armor is heavy armor. Similar in stature to the aquatic armor, The heavy armor is even larger and heavier, more like a tank with legs than armor. The heavy armor can withstand far greater punishment than any other armor, outperforming any actual tanks in terms of endurance. Of course, much like the aquatic armor, this armor contains mechanical parts to allow the user to move. But in addition to that, they greatly increase the strength of the suit itself, allowing them to lift cars over their heads with ease, as well as allowing them to use heavy weaponry. Of course, all this comes at the cost of their mobility. They are extremely slow and aren't even able to jump. They have jet boosters in their boots, but this is basically just a tool to allow them to move past ledges, so they aren't stopped in their tracks by a knee-high incline. The last notable thing about this armor are the shock gauntlets, made for hand-to-hand combat in case their other weapons are unavailable. Weapons. Here we will only be discussing only notable weapons, as the Midoriya Foundation does have access and uses pretty much every conventional weapon in existence. To save time, only certain ones need to be talked about in detail. The first weapon is the MFD Chaos Rifle. Using the raw power of fractals, these rifles can shoot energy shots capable of tearing through brick. And thankfully it's light enough to be used by any Midoriya Foundation personnel, and can even be used underwater. As such, this is the standard weapon used by Midoriya Foundation troops. Next is the MFD Heavy Chaos Rifle. These rifles are a more powerful version of the standard Chaos Rifle. These ones can tear through a building at full charge. However, with the increase in power came a significant increase in weight and size. As such, only those donning heavy armor are authorized to use these. After that, we have the MFD swords. These swords are made out of a special cactus metal/titanium alloy and use fractal power to vibrate, increasing its cutting power significantly, allowing it to cleave through light steel plating. Moving on to the MFD Heavy Thunder Spears. These spears are made from the same alloy as the swords. However, they serve a very different purpose. The spear, on top of being used like a spear, is capable of shooting out neuroshocks, non-lethal beams of energy that paralyze targets when hit. However, the real reason for their name comes from when they're thrown. Once they're thrown, the spears will deploy a rocket from their back and thrust towards their targets at speeds close to Mach 1. And once they pierce the target, they explode with significant power. The MFD rocket hammer and rocket axe are exactly what they sound like. Massive hammers and axes with rockets on the back of them. At full power, both of them are capable of destroying a heavily armored tank. MFD Unstable Broken Fractal Launcher. This is a missile launcher that shoots very special missiles. These missiles are actual cases, and inside them are cracked fractals. Once the missile hits something, it will quickly deliver an energy pulse into the fractal, causing it to explode. While the explosion is strong, its power isn't the focus point, as anything caught by the explosion will be subject to the effect of that fractal's quirk, be it making them fall asleep, setting them on fire, weakening their power, etc. Vehicles. Much like with weapons, the Midoriya Foundation has access to all forms of vehicles, so we'll only be going over noteworthy ones. The MFD Storm-class ships are massive airships, the same model as the Typhoon, capable of housing tens of thousands of troops. It has dozens of onboard chaos energy cannons capable of leveling buildings, a force field that protects it from most attacks, and its hull is strong enough to withstand severe punishment as well. It can travel faster than trains, and it possesses a cloud camouflage feature, so it can move without noticing it. Lastly, it poses a large railgun, capable of shooting straight through a mountain. Meanwhile, MFD Wind-class ships are similar to the one that was stolen by the Sky Pirates, but without the pirate motif. MFD Wing-class ships are one-person ships, the ones primarily meant to be used during combat. They're equipped with 2 high-powered chaos cannons and can fly at speeds up to Mach 5. It can reduce an entire city block into rubble in less than a second. MFD tanks are heavily armored tanks, armed with standard machine guns and 1 large chaos cannon. They are also equipped with a force field fractal. The MFD Juggernaut tanks are even more heavily armored and are equipped with even more weapons. The main cannon is now EX Chaos Cannon, something that no human being is currently able to get hit by and walk away unscathed. The MFD Pursuer is a motorcycle designed for speed and agility. On top of being able to move faster than bullet trains, it can also drive on walls, jump, and is equipped with a built-in two-way grappling hook system. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX his office, speaking to his two new generals. The first one looked very similar to Sai, but with lighter, longer hair, styled into a long braid. This was one of Sai's sisters, Katabura. She had been working as a pro-hero for the longest time in France, but due to her abrasive personality and being compared to another one of her sisters who was also in France, she was never super popular. After having had enough of her sister, she decided to move back to Japan and was hired by Izuku. Because despite her lack of popularity, she was very effective at her job and at commanding others. The other one was another blonde girl, but not related to Sai, and much smaller. One would assume she was a child at first glance, and they would be mistaken, as this was actually a fully grown man, man. Formerly a rising star of the German military, it seemed like he got on the bad side of someone there, and one day he found himself in the body of a small girl, and was promptly dismissed afterward, which is when Izuku came in and swooped her up. Although curiously, they were unable to turn him back to normal, even with Ares' power, implying that a powerful reality warping quirk was used. Both of them were wearing green military uniforms with red boots, the primary colors of his army. The two of them were looking over the files Izuku had given them, detailing the army they'd be working with. Of course, there's more you have access to, and more is being developed. I've sent this information to your phones, so you can look at it later, Izuku explained. Keita smirked as she looked down at the papers. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. For once I'm glad I'm not an only child. So what's our directives? Gehalt asked, looking up at Izuku with a very serious expression. Izuku pulled out a hollow disc, and it showed Sin Shinran. First priority is Sin Shinran. He's one of the 7 shadow dragons we accidentally created. While all the shadow dragons are an issue, currently he is proving to be the most problematic. His ability to manipulate negative emotional energy, to not just manipulate people's minds, but argue their power, has caused several more villains to pop up, as well as villainous organizations to grow stronger and more aggressive. And his abilities when it comes to direct combat are no laughing matter either. Immediately after he was born, he was able to hold off Gamma 2, not for very long, but doing that for any length of time, and then escaping afterward is impressive, to say the least. If you encounter him, do not let him escape, but don't engage him with troops either. Defer this to the heroes and just keep him contained, and be ready to retrieve his Dragon Ball, if need be. Next, the hollow disc projected more images, showing Sin, Haze, Oceana, and a new one, alongside 3 shadowy figures. This new figure appeared mostly humanoid, with a blue, icy exoskeleton and large dragon-like wings coming from his back. And there, in his neck, just barely visible under his suit, was the 3-star Dragon Ball. Second priority would be the rest of the shadow dragons. Haze Shinran, the frog-looking one, has already been captured and is being detained at Angel Island. Osanana is non-hostile and is working with us. And EIS is currently the CEO of Blizzard. No, I don't know how that happened. And while he isn't hostile, well, let's just say he's not improving the company. But the real focus, aside from Sin whom we've discussed, are the remaining 3 dragons. You are to deduce if they're hostile. If not, make contact and ask them to come into questioning. If yes, neutralize them and bring back the Dragon Ball. Only destroy the Dragon Ball, if you absolutely must. Next, the image changed to show Ri, Destro, and Karai. Third priority is tracking down the Foot Clan and the Meta Liberation Army. Specifically, I'd like to find their main bases so we can crush them properly. Izuku continued. Although my spying and information gathering department is still in the works, so that might have to wait. Still, these 2 organizations present a threat to me and my children. As such, anytime you find them or their operations, they are to be taken care of swiftly and immediately. Take them in alive if possible. And if you encounter any children under their control, they are to be taken alive, period. Under no circumstances are you to kill any children, ever. Then the image changed to show crowds of rioting people. Lastly, is general peacekeeping. The Japanese government has graciously allowed us full reign and authority over peacekeeping operations in the country. And so you're to help the heroes and police when it comes to making sure the streets stay peaceful. Izuku said. To add to that, the American government has also given us the thumbs up to operate in their country, but to a much more limited extent. Man, I'm taking you with operations there. Please try to calm things down. Yes, sir, Gehalt said with a salute. Is that all, sir? Not quite, Izuku said, as the hollow disc showed one last image. This time of Cooler. This is the villain known as Cooler. He is currently in possession of an extremely powerful thing known as a Chaos Emerald. He's not on the list of priorities simply because he's no longer in the country, and we can't assume he's in America either. However, if you see him or think he may be nearby, he becomes the top priority. That being said, do not engage him if he's utilizing the Chaos Emerald. Make sure he doesn't escape and call for backup immediately. And evacuate the area. If he's in America, you have full authorization to use whatever means necessary to do this, even if the American government opposes it. Won't that land you in some hot water? Keita asked, raising an eyebrow. A slap on the wrist, maybe. Izuku shrugged. At the end of the day, with the amount of power and influence I'm wielding and the absolute disaster state America is in, we can really do whatever we want. The only reason we're complying with them at all is so the rest of the governments don't get hesitant about allowing me to work in their countries, and also to fight the narrative that I'm trying to take over the world. You're not? Keita and Gehalt asked at the same time, looking at Izuku in surprise. No. Why would I want to take over the world? Izuku groaned, sounding absolutely exasperated. I just want to have enough power and influence over the entire planet to do as I wish, for the sake of others. Okay, when I say this out loud, I get where you're coming from. But you get my point. I would just like to benefit humanity from the side, not as some kind of super emperor of humanity. Understood? Yes, sir. Both of them said. Tada. Shiruka stepped back and looked back up at her work. She, Shina, and Kano had decided to spend today with Izuku, giving him a new wardrobe. Currently, Izuku was dressed in black dress pants, with a black dress sleeveless vest and a white undershirt underneath it. He also wore a pair of snazzy black shoes, black gloves, and a tie. This looks really good, girls, Izuku said as he looked at himself in the mirror. Maybe I should wear stuff like this more often. Once again, our work is nothing but top-notch. Kano boasted proudly. Makes me wish there was a mother figure to work on. Suddenly, an idea popped up in Shiruku's head. Oh yes, I'd love to have a mother to dress up and do makeup on. That would be the best. Shina thought about it. Sure, she'd done a bit of makeup for Izuku, but with a mother, she'd be able to do so much more. Maybe they could even dress up as idols and sing together. The thought made her smile. Yeah, that'd be great. Izuku frowned, seeing his kids dissatisfied. A mother, huh? Shiruka smirked. That's right, now call Achiko. After all, who else would you ask to take the role of our mother? Actually, Izuku said, getting an idea of his own. I know a way we can do that. Huh? Shiruka looked at him confused. What do you mean? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Standing before them was Izuku, but not the Izuku they were used to. Seeing as they wanted a mother to play with, Izuku came up with one conclusion: just become a mom. Using the fractals, Izuku was easily able to change his gender whenever he pleased and then change it back again. Although he didn't expect his female form to be such a departure from his male one. Their height barely changed, but their overall body structure was almost completely different. Far more curvy. What's more, they now sported a long head of curly green hair, which framed a rather cute face. Although the most notable change was very obviously their chest, as their now female bodies sported a very generously sized pair of breasts. Figures mom and dad's genes favored girls, Izuku thought with a sigh. Although Izuku was definitely more conventionally attractive this way, it did come with the downside of them being very uncomfortable, particularly in the chest area. Seriously, how do women walk around with these? And why would they want them to be so big? Meanwhile, the girls were just trying to process what they were looking for. Kano and Shino were the first to recover, huge smiles crawling up their faces. Wow, you look amazing, Mr. Midoriya, Shina said, already thinking of what makeup to use. Oh, what lovely hair. I have to say you wear it far better in this form than your natural one, Kano said excitedly. Shiruku, let's get out some of our dresses and start resizing them. We can't let this opportunity go. Yes, sure, let's go. Shiruka shrugged. This hadn't gone at all like she thought. But screw it, this would still be fun. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Shiruka, sorry to bother you, dear sister, but my dress was to dash. Immediately, Kiba froze when she saw what the other three girls had just finished working on. Oh, Kiba. Perfect. What do you think of our work? Kano asked. Kiba saw in front of her the female form of her father, now all dolled up by his three daughters. The main draw was the long red dress, with two slits down the side that exposed her legs. Thankfully, he'd been spared the torture of heels, although the red shoes he had been forced to wear were still rather uncomfortable. Their face had been dolled up a bit, making it seem brighter, as well as adding crimson red lipstick to their lips. Lastly, their hair had been brushed and styled into sparkling emerald locks. Ah! Was all Kiba could say, her brain struggling to process what she was seeing. Is that a good stunned silence or a bad stunned silence? Sheena asked as she tried to interpret Kiba's reaction. I think she's more confused than anything, Shiruka said. Caretaker, what is this? Kiba eventually managed to articulate. Well, the girls wanted a mom to play with, so I decided to do this, Izuku explained. Of course you did. Kiba deadpanned. That's such a you thing to do, caretaker. Although I must admit you do look very lovely. Not that you didn't look wonderful as a man. It's just your choice of clothes never did you any favors. I'm aware. Izuku chuckled. Well, I'll be back later when you're done. Kiba turned around to leave, but suddenly Izuku scooped her up and brought her into a hug. Huh? Sorry, I wanted to see what hugging you would be like this, Izuku said, holding Kiba against their chest. It's pretty strange. It feels like I'm being hugged by a pillow. Kiba thought, her face bright red. She didn't hate it, but man was it strange. She wanted to voice an objection, but also she didn't. All right, I'll let you go now, Izuku said, putting the now once again stunned and confused Kiba down. All right. Kiba nodded as she stumbled out of the room. Have fun. Kiba left the room, closing the door behind her. So that's what hugging a mom is like. Maybe I should spend more time with Achiko. I am really getting a better understanding of the suffering women have to go through on a regular basis, Izuku said as he looked at their new outfit in the mirror. This was the idol outfit Sheena was so excited about. A green and red dress, with a very frilly skirt that was a bit too short for comfort. A pair of black stockings, red platform shoes, and a hood with bunny ears on it. You look adorable, Mr. Midoriya, Sheena gasped, her eyes sparkling. You'd be great on stage. Please God, no. Izuku thought, thoroughly embarrassed. It had been a while since he'd been this red. I mean I can't really dance or sing, so I doubt anyone would want to see that. Don't worry, I've got that covered, Sheena said. Then the door opened, and Mina came in. Hey Sheena, you said you wanted me to help you with something. The moment Mina locked eyes on Izuku, she froze. Her brain took a few seconds to process this, and then a giant, shit-eating grin crawled up her face. Looking good, boss. Nice skirt. Izuku's face somehow turned redder. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX female form, but in far more comfortable and less exposing clothing. Basically, he was just wearing a female-fitted version of that suit and vest he'd worn earlier, with some added makeup. The dance practice had been equal parts embarrassing and hard, as Izuku had absolutely zero talent when it came to dancing. After that, the girls gave him this last outfit, and then they were satisfied enough to let him go. Gotta say, boss, I wasn't expecting you to look this pretty as a girl. Mina praised. By the way, when are you going to turn back? Is there a timer, or do you have to touch one of those crystals again? The second one, Izuku explained, sounding very tired. I figured I'd stay like this for the rest of the day. The girls might get a bit sad if they see me immediately undoing their work. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, Mina said, before smiling. You're a good dad, you know. I don't think most people could go through all that just for their kids. I would though. Honestly, I'm a bit curious as to what I'd look like as a guy. Bet I'd be hot. You can try it if you want. Just ask the researchers, and they'll let you use the fractal. Izuku said. Now hopefully I can go the rest of the day without something even more embarrassing happening. Knock, knock, knock. Mr. Midoriya, may I come in? Maria asked from the other side of the door. Izuku sighed. Come in. There was a small pause, likely because Maria was confused as to why his voice sounded so different. But when she came in, she looked at Izuku, did a double take, and then sighed. "Sir, why are you a woman?" "I was playing with my daughters." "What did you need, Ms. Maria?" Izuku asked. "I shouldn't even be surprised at this point. Ms. Uraraka has shown up and wants to see you." Maria sighed. Izuku groaned. "I shouldn't even be surprised at this point. Let her in." Mina giggled. "Ah, your luck is something I'll never get tired of, boss." Izuku and Achiko were sitting on the couches, facing opposite each other with some tea on the table between them. Achiko was currently staring at Izuku as he'd suddenly thrown 2 extra heads. Particularly, her eyes would float down to the 2 head-sized things on his chest. Meanwhile, Mina was smirking, standing behind Achiko. "You know his eyes are a bit higher, right?" Oh my god. I'm so sorry, I swear I was just in shock." Achiko shouted, her face somehow redder than Izuku's. "Trust me, it's taking a lot of restraint for me not to pay attention to them as well," Izuku admitted bashfully. "I just hope none of the kids ask me to take this form again. Although if they do, I could probably get used to it with time." "You really will do anything for your kids, huh?" Achiko said with a smile. "Well, what else was I supposed to do? I couldn't just leave them wanting." Izuku mused with a frown. "And it's not like I'm getting a spouse anytime soon. So if they want a mother, this is my only option." Achiko suddenly went into deep thought. Anytime soon. Does that mean he plans on getting a wife eventually? I mean, I guess that would be best for the kids. And it's not like it would be hard for him. There are plenty of girls who'd love to be his wife. Achiko suddenly felt a twinge of intense annoyance, bordering on anger. Was that just jealousy? Why would I be jealous? There's no reason. Nope. 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 Discontinuing this train of thought, Mina sighed and shook her head. "Hey boss, mind if I speak with Achiko for a sec?" "Of course not. I'll just be in another room for a second. I need to make a call," Izuku said, getting up and walking towards his bedroom. "I'll be back in a minute. Tell me if you need more time." With that, Izuku left the room, leaving Mina and Achiko alone. Mina sighed and jumped over the couch, sitting next to Achiko. "All right. Putting all the jokes and all the teasing aside, what do you want your relationship with Midori to be?" "I told you I just want us to be good friends," Achiko said, looking away for a second. "Okay, so you wouldn't mind if Izuku started screwing some rando?" Mina asked, raising an eyebrow. And there it was again, that twinge of intense emotion. So tangible it was almost like she got slapped, forcing a very ugly scowl on her face for a second before Achiko shook her head and tried to force her expression back into a neutral state. "And you see right there, that was jealousy. It literally couldn't be any more obvious," Mina pointed out. "You know what that feeling is. And there's really only one reason you could be feeling it. Unless you're really, weirdly invested in Midori's purity. Be honest with yourself for a second." "Ugh. Fine. I may like Izuku in that way just a bit," Achiko said, her face completely red. "Happy? Not until you are," Mina said, giving her a serious look. "So now we know how you feel. Next up, why were you denying your feelings? Did you really think that keeping everything bottled up was a good idea? Because that makes things complicated." Achiko shouted out in frustration, more at herself than at Mina, clutching the sides of her head. "Me and Izuku are too busy to worry about stuff like this. So you think Midori should take less time to enjoy life so he can work more?" Mina asked sarcastically. "What? No. That's not." Achiko tried to find a way to rephrase what she said, but couldn't. What she just said was pretty much that. "And you're too busy? You come here to relax and play with the kids at least once a week. And at most, you just stay here for a week." Mina pointed out. "Any of the time you spend with him could be a date, and it'd be less awkward because the two of you are skirting around your feelings. How do you even know he likes me like that, huh?" Achiko argued, before looking down at herself. "I mean, I'm not exactly the perfect girl. I've got all these scars, and my face is chubby, and I'm just not as good as the other girls. I mean, look at Momo. Heck, look at Izuku right now. Okay, right now, Izuku's prettier than a lot of girls, which is hilarious, but beside the point." Mina snickered. "Achiko, I could go on about how pretty you are. And I'm pretty sure Midori's the type of person to think scars are cool, so that's probably working in your favor. But none of that matters. Because do you really think Midoriya, I adopted a 40-foot Hydra and I love him dearly. Izuku is going to care too much about appearances? I mean, come on. I know there are a lot of guys who say they care more about personality, but with Midoriya, I truly believe he could care less about what you look like. He likes you for you. You were the first person to accept him. Whenever he needs help or he gets hurt, or there's a problem with the kids, you come running as soon as you find out. The kids love you, and some of them are already calling you mom. That's why I'm so confident about Midori liking you. Ochako thought about that. She wanted to say that anyone would do that, but that's not really the case. It's not like Izuku's staff or even Mina herself didn't support Izuku, but not in the way she did. And the kids didn't call any other girl's mom. Let me tell you this. Midori's not going to make the first move. Mina told her. He still hates himself too much. He wouldn't date any girl he likes because he doesn't think he's good enough. Or he thinks he's going to bother you. Or some other stupid reason. So if you want things to move forward, you got to do it yourself. So, do you like spending time with Midori? Yeah. Ochako sheepishly admitted. Do you wish you could do that without having to hide any feelings or anything like that? Mina asked. Yes. Ochiko's face continued to turn red, as she could see very clearly where this was going. Do you hate the idea of being closer to him? Mina continued. Do you hate the idea of making out and cuddling and actually being these kids' moms? Ochako thought about that, somehow her face turning even redder as she imagined a life like that. I don't hate it. I actually maybe kinda like it. Then go for it. Mina encouraged her. We only live for so long, you know. Why waste your time with all the angst when you could just move on to the good parts? Look, I'm not asking you to confess right here, right now. I just want you to seriously think about it and not make up any nonsense excuses. Okay, when did you get this smart? Ochako pouted. What can I say? I'm a people person. Mina shrugged. Kata sighed as she laid down in her bed, bored out of her mind. It had been a few days since she became general of the Midoriya Foundation Army. She'd set up squadrons and bases around the entirety of Japan, making sure even the most remote of villages weren't more than a few miles away from a Midoriya Foundation outpost. After a bit more setup work, the bases more or less ran themselves, and they didn't have to do all that much. Their people sectioned in larger cities had most of their work done by pro-heroes except for dealing with riots, and the ones placed in remote regions had very little to do. The only exception to this was the people she'd placed in smaller cities that had fewer pro-heroes, but just enough of a population from a decent amount of crime to occur. The soldiers there were often taking in small-time criminals on their own and assisting the few pros that were there. Of course, none of that left Kato with very much to do. She was currently left relaxing in the main military base for the Midoriya Foundation, an island not too far away from Japan. Ugh, God, wasn't Japan supposed to be in chaos? Why does it feel like nothing's happening? Kata sighed as she stared at her ceiling. Knock, knock, knock. Ma'am, I have an urgent report, said a soldier on the other side of the door. Kata's eyes widened and a smirk came onto her face. She immediately jumped up and ran to the door, slamming it open. What? We've encountered one of the shadow dragons, the soldier said. Encountered? So you lost it? Kata hissed, causing the poor man in front of her to flinch. Its appearance was too sudden, and it moved too fast for our people to pin it down. The soldier defended. TSK, I don't want your excuses. Tell me what it was doing, where you found it, and what its abilities were. Kata demanded. It was attacking a power plant in Daika City. It seemed to be absorbing the electricity, leaving the city without power. The soldier explained. We thought it was a regular villain at first, but when we found it, we found the Dragon Ball in its body. It shot out lightning at our men which disoriented them for a moment, and then in a burst of lighting, it sped away, heading west. After this, we compiled a series of reports that power stations in small cities and towns had been attacked in the months leading up to this by an unknown assailant. All right, I can work with that, Kata said, already planning something in her head. Give me a map and pinpoint all the locations that had been attacked up until this point. Also, pinpoint every power station in the country. If this thing is too fast, we just need to make sure it can't run away. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Shroom. Suddenly something like a bolt of lightning crashed through the gates of the power plant, immediately causing everyone around to stop and jump back in fear, and look at the smoking crater the impact had left. Then, from the crater, something walked out. A 9-foot-tall humanoid dragon. Its body was covered in steely, sharp scales that made it look like it had armor on except for the 5-star dragon ball in its shoulder. Coming out from above it was a long tail, the end of which looked like a spear. Its reptilian head looked at the main generator, its silted yellow eyes focused on only one thing. The dragon started walking towards the main generator, while everyone else ran away screaming. It made it to the generator and then rammed its fist into the generator. Immediately, electricity burst onto his body and was soaked into him. Yes, the dragon hissed. More power. Bang. Suddenly, a missile was shot at his back, exploding on contact. Gah! The dragon groaned, shaking his head as he recovered from the explosion. It didn't do any damage, but the flash had blinded him for a second. He turned his head to see that one of the workers had taken out what looked to be a rocket launcher and had shot him. Payload delivered. Move, 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 shouted the worker into an earpiece as he ran back. Suddenly, portals opened up all around the dragon, and Midoriya Foundation soldiers wearing heavy armor, and lastly, Keita herself, donning black armor and no helmet. Fire, Keita ordered. But don't hit the ball. TCH. The dragon immediately tried to move away. Run. But he found the only thing he could move was his head. Little did he know that the rocket that had been launched at him contained a cracked fractal. This one inflicts a paralyzing effect. PWM. 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 Ra! The dragon cried out in pain as chaos energy shots slammed into his body, shooting the scales right off of various parts of his body, as well as giving him some burns and bruises. He's tough. Don't let up. Keita ordered again. Fire. Ra! The dragon's body exploded with lightning. The lightning slammed into the soldiers around him, but Keita put up a wall of fire in front of her just before she got hit, blocking the lightning. Quickly, she made the fire spread around the dragon, creating a massive wall of fire around it that blocked the lightning from reaching the soldiers. Ma'am, the suits have taken little overall damage, but enough blast will fry the machine parts. We'll be sitting ducks, one of the soldiers reported. Then fall back. I'll handle this. Keita ordered. All heavy armor units retreat. First things first, let's make sure it can't run away. That fractal's effects might wear off soon. Keita thought. The wall of fire moved up and then started warping until it formed a dome of fire. Then she added more layers of fire to the dome, making it thicker. You're done. Keita closed her fist, and the dome started to shrink until it became very small. Growling. Ruh. The dragon managed to move its limbs again, although much more sluggish, and it tried to force its way through the walls of fire, only to find that the fire was solid, like a wall of reinforced steel. It tried to shoot out lightning, but that couldn't pierce through the walls either. Ashen Maiden, Keita cried out. Suddenly, fire spears burst out from the side of the walls, piercing through the parts of the dragon that had already been exposed by the blaster shots, and impaling it in various places. God damn you! The dragon cried out in rage, as it could feel the fire pour in through its wounds, spreading throughout its body and burning its insides until shink. The fire inside its body exploded outwards in the form of spears, popping out of every part of its body from head to toe, all except for the shoulder where its dragon ball rested. With that, the dragon went limp, and its body turned into black smoke, leaving only the dragon ball which fell to the ground with a plunk. With that, the fire faded away. Keita formed a glove made of fire and walked over, picking up the ball. Shadow Dragon neutralized. Dragon Ball retrieved. All units fall back. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX video call from Izuku, who was very pleased. And Keita also seemed to be rather happy with herself. I hadn't dared hope that you would find a shadow dragon in less than a week, let alone capture one, Izuku said, looking very impressed. 0 casualties, 0 injuries, a little property damage, but far less than what would be expected. You far surpassed my hopes for you, General. And that goes beyond just this mission. So far your command over the forces across Japan has gone splendidly, just enough to be effective, but not too much as to cause the public to grow upset. Well, aside from the ones who were opposed to me having a military at all, but there's nothing we can do about that. The point is, I think you deserve a reward. What would you like? Sir, you flatter me. I'm simply doing what you pay me to do. Keita smirked. But if you're so set on rewarding me, perhaps one of those fractal weapons would do. I know I have access to all the fractals, but I'm talking about something more especially made for me. Consider it done, Izuku said. I'll also be giving you a raise. I think it's more than deserved. Well, unless you'd like something else, I think I should let you get back to work. I'm good, sir. Please, enjoy your day. Keita said with a bow. The video cut off, and Keita was left smirking like a mad dog. That was what she was talking about. Praise, acknowledgement, rewards. This is what she deserved. She could already imagine how this would have gone if she was still in France. Keita, why didn't you stop it earlier? Keita, why didn't you keep it from destroying the generator? Keita, why didn't you keep it from damaging the suits? Keita, why did your special move have to be so scary looking? Damn, those people were annoying. They acted like she could just snap her fingers and deal with the problem. Her sister didn't have to deal with this. But Ino, though, because she got the scary fire powers and didn't act like a damn saint, she was less popular, and so she had to deal with all this garbage. But not anymore. Midoriya appreciated her talents and understood that you can't beat a villain who's worth their salt without there being some level of damage done to something. Oh, and the massive pay and literal army she got to command didn't hurt either. And she really liked being called general. Well, better get back to work, Keita said to herself as she walked away. I've got to make sure everyone knows my greatness. Mina Ashido has uploaded 7 pictures. Mina Ashido, Peep Fem Midori. Kaminari Denki. Okay, first. Hot. Second, how? Toru Hagakure. Damn, he is pretty. Ochiko Uraraka. Mina, you better have asked permission before you did this. Mina Ashido. Of course I did. I asked Shiruku. She was the one who sent me the pictures after all. Ida Tenya, Ashido. You can't simply upload pictures of someone without their permission. Shiro Hinata. So is he just a really good crossdresser, or did he actually change his gender? Ochiko Uraraka. One of the kids wanted a mom to play with, so Izuku used one of his weird crystals to turn into a girl. Also, Mina, I hope you know I'm telling him about this. Mina Ashido. Come on guys, I was joking. Of course I told him I was doing this. Do you really think I'd do this otherwise? Even I'm not that dumb. Mineta Minoru. Mina, how could you do this to me? You can't show a pic of a girl this hot, and then tell me they're a dude. How am I supposed to deal with this? Mina Ashido. Suffer. Kyokujiro. Life isn't fair. Momo Yaoyorozu. Jiro. We told you. Your breasts are just fine. I can only imagine Midoriya was extremely annoyed by them the entire day. Mina Ashido. Oh, like you wouldn't believe. He kept saying they hurt his back, and they made it hard to walk and stuff. Although it was really funny how Ochiko couldn't stop looking at them the entire time. Ochiko Uraraka. Mina, one of these days I swear you're gonna regret this. Mina Ashido. Never. Kaminari Denki. Who knew Uraraka was a woman of culture? Shiro Hinata. So were you looking at them because they were huge, or because they were on Midoriya? Actually, an easy way to answer that question is, Momo, have you seen Uraraka staring at your chest? Momo Yaoyorozu. Not any more than everyone else already does. Koikujiro. I don't blame her. I wouldn't be able to stop looking at them either. Suyu Azui. Seconded. But can we let up on the poor girl? She's already on the ceiling, and if her face gets any redder she might explode. Kirishima Ijiru. Can we just talk about how Midoriya turned into a girl for his kids? That is so manly. Mineta Minoru. So 2 questions. How often is Midoriya willing to be like this? And what are his sexual preferences? Ochiko Uraraka. Mineta. Reading that nearly gave me an aneurysm. You're going to shut up, and if you even think about trying anything, I will personally break every bone in your body, and then make you walk to the hospital under double the gravity. Mineta Minoru. Yes, ma'am. Kaminari Denki. My dude, where did you think that was going to go? Like, yeah, he's hot, but no chick is hot enough to make me fight Uraraka for them. Toru Hagakure. So Ochiko, which form do you think is better? Ochiko Uraraka. I'm not answering that. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX actual fuck is this? Sheena, Mr. Midoriya turned himself into a girl for us for one day. He looks super pretty, right? Kiba, it's true, I saw it. I felt it. Fu, what does that mean? Kano, she got hugged and enveloped in boobs. K, were they soft? Kiba, softer than pillows. Nara, why does this not surprise me? Ken, Just gonna pretend I didn't see this. Gee, I wonder if we'll look like this when we get older. Inu, I hope so. Big bro looks so pretty. Netsu, I wonder what I'd look like as a girl. You think he'd let us use that fractal? Who's in for swapping genders? K, I'm in. I want to try it. Fu, sure, why not? Alice, me too. Himiko, hold on a second. Am I the only one who's upset I didn't get hugged by Dad's boobs? Why didn't you guys invite me? I wanted to play too. Ko, yeah? I wanted to get hugged with boobs too. Shiruku, well, if you want, you could just ask him to turn into a woman again. Eri, is he really okay with it? Sheena, yeah, he said if we want it, we just have to ask. Fu, yup, that sounds like Dad all right. K, yup, he's the breast. K, Butum, Tish. Yonda, the fact that none of us saw that coming saddens me greatly. Hinata, Lady Kiba, do you enjoy being hugged by people with large boobies? Kiba, to be perfectly honest, yes. It's very comfortable. Hinata, understood. I will one day have large boobies so Lady Kiba can hug them whenever she likes. Sheena, I hope one day I can be as pretty as Mr. Midoriya is as a woman. It's kinda unfair actually. Kyoku, no one on the outside can learn about this. Imagine how many perverts will try to get their hands on Daddy once they see this. Ken, I don't think perverts will be a bigger threat than the villains. Yonda, you would be surprised. Trust me, the power of perverts is not to be underestimated. Nara, the more I talk to you, Yonda, the more I'm glad I can't read minds. Why you want me to join a B-band? Fuku stuttered. Yes. Sheena said affirmatively. Sheena had come to Fuku's room with this offer, something Fuku really couldn't believe. Why me? Fuku asked in both fear and disbelief. Because you're super good with your hands. So I'm sure you'd be able to learn an instrument really quickly if you tried. Sheena theorized. I mean, you can use a bow and that has a string, so I'd think you'd be able to pick up a guitar or a bass really easily. I don't think it'll be that easy. Fuku objected. And there's no way I could take that kind of attention. Standing on a stage. I think I'd drop dead from stress. Would it help if you wore your hoodie? Sheena asked. Nope. Can't do it. I'm so sorry. Fuku apologized before going into a Digiza pose. Please don't make me. Sheena thought about it. Okay, what if you only recorded music for us and didn't do any stage stuff? Then I'd be holding you guys back. Fuku continued to object. You need to find someone else. What about Lady Kiba? She'd love to be on stage. Lady Kiba would break all the instruments. Sheena pointed out. Oh yeah, what about Kay? Fuku asked. She can barely read Japanese, let alone read music. Sheena sighed. Eri, Fuku suggested half-heartedly. Sheena sighed. A look of disappointment dawned on her face that hit Fuku like a punch to the gut. There's really no way to get you to join? That face is not fair. Fuku pouted. Why do you want me to join so badly anyway? I told you. It's because you're super talented, Sheena said adamantly, looking at Fuku with a gaze full of expectations that made Fuku shiver. I was always a bit jealous of everything you could do, but always admired you for it too. And I really want to see what someone like you could do with music, but if you really don't want to. And there it was again, that disappointed expression that hit Fuku where it hurt. Come on, Fuku. Look at her. She wants you to help her so badly. How could you be so heartless? She asked herself before giving a counter-argument. Because I don't want to die of shame. Maybe I'm good at a few things, but I don't have any experience with music. But can't you just try? For her? She argued against herself. Are you really that selfish? Fine. You win. I'll try it. Fuku said, collapsing to the ground in frustration. But if it doesn't work out, don't blame me. Thank you. Sheena jumped at Fuku, eagerly wrapping her in a hug. It was insane how much her makeover boosted her confidence and self-esteem. Oh, and would you mind helping me write a song? Sheena asked, with a bit of a wince, knowing she was asking for a lot already. Well, I actually already wrote one. Fuku said sheepishly. It had been an experiment she'd made, working on it every now and then when she was bored. But I'm not sure it's any good. Actually, scratch that, I'm sure it's not. Just forget I said anything. No, show me. Sheena said eagerly. You're so pushy. I think I liked you better when you were shy. Fuku grumbled under her breath as she went over to one of the many filing cabinets in her room, opened it up, and started looking. Wow, she writes a lot. Sheena thought as she saw Fuku going through tons of papers. And draws too. And while she organizes really well, after a bit of searching, Fuku finally found it, a singular piece of paper. It's just lyrics, but here. Fuku showed her the paper, and Sheena looked over it. There was a couple minutes of silence as Sheena read it before she looked over to Fuku with a smile. Fuku, I think we can work with this. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Knees on drums. Ko as the secondary guitarist. Or the only guitarist if they wanted Sheena to focus on singing. And Fuku on bass. Very, very, very reluctantly. The group spent months practicing. Fuku oftentimes couldn't join in due to her other obligations, but she managed about as well as the others. All the while, Fuku and Sheena worked on what would be their first original song. They worked and worked until eventually they felt ready enough to actually try and record something. All right, everybody, let's get ready to rock. Ko said via text-to-speech. Are you guys sure about this? Fuku asked, still very unsure about all this. She'd come to actually not dislike being part of the band. Music was an art she'd always heavily enjoyed, but never felt like she had what it took to really get good at it. So to see that she actually could make music, as extremely amateurish as it was very encouraging. Of course, that only applied to just practicing. She still didn't think she was anywhere near ready for an actual recording that would be posted on the internet. Yeah, maybe we should just practice a bit more. Knees agreed. Come on, guys, we can do this. Sheena encouraged them, putting on a front of determination. In truth, she was horribly nervous as well. But she had faith that all the practice they'd put into this by now. Although she still made sure that all her makeup was sweat-proof before they gathered. If we keep talking ourselves out of taking the first step, then we'll never move forward, Sheena said, repeating something motivational Yonda had told her earlier. Even if we mess up, we can just try again. So let's go. Yeah, Ko said using text-to-speech, punching the air enthusiastically. Knees and Fuku looked at each other. Knees gathered her courage and gave Fuku a determined look, which in turn encouraged her as well, and she returned the expression. All right, the two of them said in tandem. Izuku was just casually relaxing in his room, watching some of his soldiers helping out heroes during a villain fight. It was very bizarre to think that, by extension, he was technically taking on villains alongside heroes, and his younger self likely would have said it didn't count, but it was still gratifying in its own way. Plus, he still got to see a cool fight. Knock, knock, knock. Come in, Izuku said, as he quickly turned off the TV ready to address whatever this was. The door opened, and the four band girls came in. Hey, Mr. Midoriya, check this out, Ko said excitedly. While her expression was expected, text-to-speech made it almost comically neutral sounding. She showed him her phone, with a video pulled up, titled, Our First Song. We wanted to show you it first before we uploaded it, Sheena said, looking a bit more obviously nervous now, shuffling in place and twiddling her thumbs. Just tell us what you think. And don't just flatter us because we're your kids. Fuku shouted. She was obviously way more nervous. Sure, you couldn't see her face due to her hoodie, but given how she was trembling and hiding behind Sheena, it wasn't hard to gauge her feelings. Knees was also rather nervous looking, pinching her hand every once in a while, making Ko the only one who seemed to have zero worries. All right, let's take a look. Izuku grabbed the phone, sat back down, and pressed play. 1, 2, break out. Sheena sang. The music came in, and all four of them went in on their instruments. Trapped, stuck, all alone, and told to stay. Told that things were meant to be that way. Every day I am forced to obey orders I despise. But don't think for a second that I don't see through your lies. Break out. Everyone else suddenly jumped in. Of the cage, of the box, of the lies holding me back. Break out. Tear down the walls, bomb the halls. Time to go on the attack. Break out. Such a fool your greedy mind would never see. Break out. That such a life would never be enough for someone like me. Break out. Break out. Break out. Thought that fear and pain would keep me down. But I've gone past that and gained my crown. All the doubt, all the chains, all the pain you left in my mind. Much like you, I'm ready to leave them all behind. Break out. Of the excuses and the lies inside my head. Break out. Cut the chains, weighing me down like lead. Break out. Now I'm as strong as I can be. Break out. Now nothing you can do to stop me from breaking free. Break out. That's when Ko's guitar solo kicked in, going on for about half a minute before the lyrics came back. You refuse to love me, so I learned to love myself. I refuse to stay with you. You're a hazard to my health. I'll finally find a safe haven. Finally, I've found my way. My brand new life starts. Right now it starts today. Breakout. Of the love of the family that was never there. Breakout. Time to pay. Retribution's only fair. Breakout. Now you're gone. Long gone. And now I'm free. Breakout. So it's time to finally be the thing I thought I'd never be, the unrestricted, non-conflicted, the emancipated, the ideal me. Breakout. And just like that, it ended. It was very obviously amateurish. Izuku wasn't a music buff, not in the slightest, but even he could tell the difference between this and more professional works, just by listening. That wasn't to say it was bad. No, it was pleasant to listen to, just not something too great. And despite that, Izuku had a massive smile on his face as he listened to it. Just the sheer amount of effort that was obviously put into this. Their determined, half-exhausted faces showed that they'd obviously recorded this many times trying to get it right. You could see it in their eyes, just how much they wanted to get this right. And the lyrics, turning their tragic pasts into fuel for their songs, and proclaiming themselves free of their baggage. It did his heart good. Izuku handed the phone back to the girls, who had been looking up at him hopefully. Girls, you have a very promising music career. Ko jumped for joy, while Shina and Fuku breathed sighs of relief, and knees did a little fist pump. So, what's your band name? Izuku asked. Each of the girls looked at each other, before looking up at Izuku. Our name, Shina said. It's Liberation. Fuku was just peacefully drawing in her room, when suddenly, she heard a familiar voice in her head. Hello, dear sister. Yonda greeted from somewhere outside the room. Oh. Fuku jumped in her seat for a second before quickly realizing it was just Yonda. Yonda, give me a warning before you do that. Knock or something. My apologies. But I wanted to ask you for a favor. Yonda said. You see, as you might have heard, I've made some mistakes. And I've ended up hurting some people. And I'd like to apologize for it. You mean to Achiko? Fuku asked. I guess I could help you. But what do you need my help for? Well, I can't just apologize. I have to show her that I'm actually sorry. And the best way to convey that is with a gift. A handmade gift. Something that requires a lot of effort. Yonda explained. So, after a long deliberation, I've decided that strawberry ice cream cake is the best option. And naturally, I'll need your help for that. I see. All right. When do you want to start? Fuku asked. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Achiko hung out in his office again. "It's okay," Achiko said, blushing a bit. It was abnormal for Izuku to call her. Normally, she came over on her own accord. And it was entirely Mina's fault that her head was swimming with certain thoughts as to why he might have done that. "So, as for the reason I called you here, someone has something they'd like to give you," Izuku said. The door opened up, and Yonda came in, with a small cart, with a cake on top of it. The cake was decorated to look like the night sky, being primarily purple, with white stars on it. "Oh." Achiko stared at the cake in surprise. Yonda presented the cake to Achiko and bowed. "I am sincerely sorry about that incident with Bakugo. I was so caught up in trying to hurt that blonde chihuahua that I ended up getting you injured. And I could have gotten you into trouble at school. And that was wrong of me. I endeavor to be better in the future. In the meantime, please accept this strawberry ice cream cake." "Oh wow, I think she's actually serious. Did you make this yourself?" Achiko asked. "Correct. I asked Fuku for help, but she just taught me how to make it. She didn't actually make any part of this cake." Yonda explained. "This cake was 100% my own effort. I hope the taste will reflect how sorry I am." "You're not going to apologize for the Todoroki incident?" Achiko asked. "To be honest, I'm not all that sorry about that still," Yonda admitted. "Still probably saved that guy's life, so I still think I did good. Although admittedly, perhaps I could have tried a bit harder to make the outcome less difficult to deal with. But that's about all you're genuinely getting from me." Izuku face-palmed. Achiko shook her head and sighed. "Well, it's more than I thought I'd get. And I guess that means your apology for the Bakugo thing is the real deal. In that case, I accept your apology. And your cake. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX never a test. Not in math or history or anything like that, but in business. Now giving a 6-year-old a test like that might seem like madness, but Kyoko's intelligence was far, far ahead of your average 6-year-old. Likely because of her quirk, Kyoko's intelligence and memory capacity were incredible, meaning he only had to tell her something once, make sure she understood, and she'd get it. Honestly, if you met her now, you'd be convinced she had an intelligence-boosting quirk. Give it a few years, and Izuku was considering giving her legitimate work, like she requested. It's not like her to be late, Izuku said as he looked up at the clock. Then a moment later, the door opened, and Kyoko ran in, looking rather different. Her hair was styled into a ponytail, and she now wore an adorable business girl outfit, with a white skirt, a dress shirt and tie, black dress shoes, and fake glasses. Sorry I'm late. Kyoko apologized as she caught her breath. I was getting this new outfit from Shiroku, and I lost track of time for a minute. Please forgive this grave error, father. Kyoko had started changing the way she spoke and acted ever since she started studying how to manage the foundation. Trying to come off as more intelligent and mature was likely the reason for the outfit change. Even going so far as to call him father instead of dad or daddy, like she used to. It's all right, just be a bit more mindful. As ridiculous as it might seem, some people will take you being a minute late as some kind of slight against them. Izuku sighed, shaking his head. Honestly, you should strive to be early rather than on time. It will make life far easier. Yes, sir. Kyoko nodded. I'm ready to take the test now. Expect perfect results. With your best efforts, I'd expect no less. Izuku smiled and patted Kyoko on the head. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX intending to take a nap by the pool. She just finished giving Achiko her cake, and now she just wanted to relax. However, she quickly noticed that the pool was already quite occupied. Kei, Otoko, Sanson, and Himiko were already at the pool, having the time of their lives splashing around and swimming and stuff. Yonda sighed. Guess I'll just take a nap in the greenhouse or something. They look like they're having so much fun. Thought a familiar, gloomy voice. Yonda looked over the source of the thought and saw Tenko hiding nearby. Finally, I've been waiting forever. Tenko's negative attitude and thoughts had naturally not sat well with Yonda, which naturally meant she had to do something about it. There couldn't be misery at the Midoriya household, at least not for anyone but their enemies. Her first thought was to make use of the mood candies, to alter his mood, and then talk him into playing with the others. Once he started having fun, he'd start to move past the whole. My entire family is dead, but they weren't a very good family for the most part, so I don't know how to feel about this thing. But she'd sworn that she would try to be a better person, and part of that was respecting people enough not to drug them without their consent, even if she didn't see a huge problem with it. Plus, after thinking about it a bit more, in the odd chance he found out about what she'd done, he might regress a bit and close up in his room more, or something. Although she really doubted he'd find out if she didn't tell anyone. But things didn't always go as she planned, much as she loathed to admit. So her next idea was to tell him about the candies and give them to him. However, if she did that, he might try to keep using the candies, forming an addiction, which was less than ideal. And so after a bit more thinking, she managed to come up with a plan, which was entirely morally sound. She'd simply sneak videos of all the kids having fun into his room, hoped he watched them, and then hoped he'd try to get a closer look. This was far from a solid plan, but it was one she could execute with little cost, and she could always think of another plan. Fortunately, she didn't need to, and Tenko was doing exactly what she wanted. After sending Shiroku a quick text, Yonda went up behind him, making sure that escaping back into the house would be difficult. "Hello there," Yonda greeted with a big smile. "Oh." Tenko jumped up in shock, turning around to see Yonda there. "Who are you? I must inform you that I can't hear you." "I'm deaf," Yonda told him, "but I can hear your thoughts." "Oh, that's kind of scary," Tenko thought. "Sure is, anyway. It seems like you really wanted to join in on the fun over there," Yonda said. "Why don't you? If you're worried about them not wanting you, you're sorely mistaken. Those lot love having people around and would accept you with open arms. Trust me, I can read their minds." "I don't know," Tenko thought, shuffling a bit. "I mean, it does look like fun. I've never been to a pool before. But I don't have any swim trunks." "Hey Yonda, I brought the swim trunks you asked for." Shiroku said to her as she ran up to the two of them. "Oh, you're that kid, Tinko," Yonda reminded her. "Tinko, it's nice to meet you." Shiroku greeted him with a smile, before turning to Yonda and handing the plain white shorts to her. "Anyway, why do you need a pair of boys to swim trunks?" "Oh, well, would you look at that, a pair of swim trunks?" Yonda said, handing the trunks to Tinko. "And they're your size." "What?" Tinko thought, incredibly confused as to what was happening. "Don't think about it too hard, and just have fun," Yonda reassured him. "Well, I guess," Tinko thought. "Good. Shiroku, dearest, won't you show him to a changing room?" Yonda asked. Shiroku gave her a suspicious glare. "I have no idea what you've done, and I'm going to go along with it for now, but we're having a talk later. I'll prepare some tea," Yonda said, as Shiroku took Tinko by the hand and led him inside. "Oh, what a wonderful day," Yonda thought proudly to herself. "I helped someone. I didn't even need to drug anyone or blackmail anyone. Just some breaking and entering. All in all, I dare say I've improved quite a bit." At the city docks, despite the late hour, there were many people busy loading a large shipping boat with shipping containers. Men overlooked the containers, making sure everything was in order. Others operated large cranes, putting the containers on the boats. Tanks, jeeps, and other Midoriya Foundation vehicles rode onto the boat via ramps. And Midoriya Foundation troops kept a keen eye over everything. Meanwhile, underwater, there were two submarines, also doing their best to keep an eye on everything. Beep, beep, beep. Huh. One of the men overlooking the radars looked at his instruments in befuddlement before his eyes widened. "Sir, what is it?" his superior asked, running over to check what this was all about. "Sir, the scanners are detecting several hundred presences approaching, very quickly," the man alerted. "We're under attack," the man in charge shouted. "Red alert. I repeat, red alert dash." Slam. Suddenly something slammed into the submarine, causing it to shake. Immediately after that, everyone could hear something scratching on the outside of the sub. "Sir, there's too many of them. The ship's hull won't hold, and our weapons can't take out enough of them," one of the other workers said. "TSK. Damn it." The man pulled out a button and pressed it. Full-scale emergency retreat. A minute later, a portal opened, and everyone rushed through it, abandoning the submarine. Back on land, the troops were forced to lay down arms, as all the unarmed workers had been taken hostage by foot ninjas, while giant, mutated bats lifted up the shipping containers and flew them away. This continued for a few minutes, until suddenly, something came from above. PWM, 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 PWM. Dozens of energy shots rained from above, slamming into the hostage takers and rendering them unconscious. "Secure the hostages. Go, go, go," shouted the troops as they recognized the tides changing as the gammas flew above them. The sounds of blaster fire continued for several more minutes, as the gammas and the troops shot down the fleeing foot forces, as well as shooting all the mutated fish monsters that had been in the water, until all the enemies had been dispatched. Meanwhile, inside a nondescript building was a secret Midoriya Foundation facility, containing one of the negativity-gathering fractals. The fractal was being held in the center of the room, inside a glass casing connected to a machine. Around it were 6 guards, for regular troops, and 2 in heavy armor. "So what the hell does this thing even do?" asked one of the guards to another guard. "Don't know. Don't care. We're not paid to ask questions," said another guard. "I mean, it's kinda creepy looking, ain't it?" said the guard. "And just being too close to it gives me the creeps." "I understand what you mean," said another guard. "Hey, aren't you an android?" asked another guard. "You guys feel that shit?" "Contrary to what you'd think, yes," said one of the heavy armored guards. BRRRRRRR. BRRRRRR. BRRRRRR. Suddenly the lights in the facility started flashing red as alarms went on in the facility. The glass casing containing the fractal was covered by steel. Before any of them could ask what the heck was going on, suddenly a tear appeared in the air in front of them. And out from it came the Shredder, with 2 massive claws coming out of his knuckles. "Shit. Everyone Furak." Immediately Shredder rushed forward and shoved his blades right through the man's chest, cutting through him and the armor like butter, killing him instantly, before cutting off the head of the man next to him. The remaining two troopers fired at Shredder in a panic, while the heavy armored troops did the same with their spears. Shredder dodged the energy shots with ease, rushing towards the two regular troopers, and killing them both with a single swipe of his claws. "Damn it!" cried one of the heavy armored, as he motioned to throw his spear at Shredder, only for Shredder to dash over to him at near-inhuman speeds and decapitate him. "I am possible," cried the last man standing. He cut through the heavy armor. "Why, you monster!" Shing! And those were his last words before Shredder's claws took his life as well. With that done, Shredder immediately turned his attention to the now-covered fractal. Slash! Shredder easily cut through the metal and glass and grabbed the fractal. A moment later, he could hear more troops rushing towards him, and he knew that more serious threats would appear through portals soon after. Shredder cut through the air with his claws, creating a portal that he swiftly jumped through before it closed. "Sir, I apologize deeply for my failures tonight," Kata said, as she took part in a video call with Izuku and Mai. "No, the failure is mine," Izuku said, sounding very calm. "Dangerously so. I had grown too relaxed after all for one's death. I knew that transporting things via portals would have been better, but I feared causing a ruckus with the government and the transport businesses. No more. High security. Transports will be done via portals. Now, what are our losses? One dark fractal was stolen, and several fractal weapons and other advanced Midoriya Foundation weapons and equipment. Gone, Mai explained grimly. Fortunately, without any pure chaos energy, they shouldn't be able to figure out how to recreate or further exploit them beyond their original designs. Basically, they got a bunch of powerful, but very limited resources. We managed to recover most of what was stolen after tracking it down to a warehouse, but a good chunk was taken, and we didn't manage to capture any more of the foot, Kata reported. As for the dark fractal, unfortunately, we were unable to retrieve it. The intruder teleported from an abandoned building and then teleported into another one after escaping. By the time we got our operatives there, he was long gone. What I want to know is how the hell he managed to create a portal despite our anti-warp tech. And how did he manage to so easily cut through the heavy armor? Izuku asked. From our analysis, it seems like our intruder's quirk allows him to cut through anything with those claws, Mai explained, including space. The anti-warp tech only reinforces space and reality, but reinforcements can be broken through with enough power. And since he can cut through anything, he just cut through the reinforcement as well. At least that's our best guess. So a quirk that can cut through anything, including non-tangible things. Izuku mused. How troublesome. Tell our men to increase their alertness to illegal warping. I need this guy handled as soon as possible. He spilled my men's blood, and he will do it again, so long as he stays active. Understood, sir, Kata said. I swear to you, I will avenge those soldiers. No one spills the blood of Midoriya Foundation troops and gets away with it. That I swear. Good, Izuku said. Now, what were those creatures that attacked the ship? The bats and the fish? Mutagen creatures? Have they perfected the formula already? Not quite, but they've obviously improved the formula, Mai explained. They're able to reliably mutate animals into more dangerous creatures now, and they've put chips in their brains to control them. However, the mutation process drastically cuts down the creature's lifespan. They only have hours to live, so they can't quite stock up on them. Still, they can likely create hundreds of monsters at once and unleash them during an attack. It's a very dangerous development. I really have been getting too lax. Izuku sighed. I'm going to make some calls, get some licenses, maybe change a few laws. Kata, prepare to get some very powerful new troops. Izuku sat at his desk, thinking deeply about the matter at hand. The Foot had come back with a bang, and even with his army, they made it very clear they were still a threat. One that would take the lives of many of his men if left unchecked. If only I had some way to lure them out. Izuku lamented. If he could just deal with them all in one fell swoop, that would make things so much easier. But doing so was easier said than done. It was obvious they wanted him dead, but they knew what resources he had available to him. They wouldn't pull an all-out attack unless they were sure they had a good shot at him. Ding! Suddenly Izuku got a text. Checking it out, Izuku found it was from Shina. Hey Mr. Midoriya, could we go to a concert that's happening soon? Izuku sighed. Unfortunately, he couldn't allow them to go. Not in light of these recent attacks. If they went to a concert now, There was little that would keep the foot from teleporting in real quick and killing them. And that's when Izuku suddenly got an idea. A concert. Of course. If they think I'm going to a casual event like that, they'd take that as a chance to get me with my guard down. Izuku thought. But I need to not only make sure I bring enough forces with me to apprehend them, but I also need to make sure they don't suspect that it's actually a trap. But I can't just use any old band. They'd have to be able to defend themselves if worst comes to worst. Actually, now that I think about it, I do know of one. Izuku pulled up his phone and made a call. Hello? Mr. Midoriya? I answered. Do you need something? Yeah, Blue Blur has a band, doesn't he? Izuku asked her. Oh yeah? He started a band with his brother and sister. They occasionally play at certain places. Sometimes they play at concerts too. I said. They're pretty good actually, really underrated in my opinion. Although I may be a bit biased. I have an offer for them, Izuku said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX been expecting to get a call from the Izuku Midoriya today, let alone a call proposing that he and his siblings perform in concert meant to lure out extremely dangerous criminals. I understand if you want to refuse. I am asking you to put you and your family in danger, Izuku said. Yeah, I'm going to have to run it by them first, but honestly, knowing them, they'll probably say yes. Blue shrugged. Still, what happens if they don't show? Then me and a few choice people get a good show. Izuku sighed. Just call me when you've got an answer. Thank you for your time. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX gathered in his office. Ochiko, Todoroki, and Bakugo. I have a special assignment for you three. Your first undercover assignment, in a way. Nizu explained. As I'm sure you're aware, the Midoriya Foundation has been working tirelessly to try and deal with the many terrorist groups that have been targeting them. And as of recently, they have a brand scheme in the works that I'd like you all to take part in. I'll do it, Ochiko said firmly, donning a look of fierce determination. TCH, what exactly does he want us to do? Bakugo asked. So, in a couple of weeks, there will be a fake concert, the purpose of which will be to lure out attackers and then defeat them. Nizu explained. Aside from Midoriya himself, several of his more elite forces, bodyguards, and many pro-heroes will be attending in disguise. And I'd like for you three to attend as well. Uraraka already made her thoughts clear, but I also accept, Todoroki said. What about you, Bakugo? Want to help your old victim? Shut it icy hot. Bakugo growled. And I'm in. Not like I got anything better to do. Perfect. However, you three will need to be in disguise. Nizu explained. Completely unrecognizable. Fortunately, the Midoriya Foundation provided us with some. Suddenly, 3 mind weavers appeared on Nizu's desk, having been there the whole time, but using their abilities to stay invisible. These 3 Grimm are called mind weavers. They have the ability to make illusions. Just have them on you, and you'll be able to look like whatever you want. Nizu explained. Everyone there will have them, except for Midoriya himself. He wants to be somewhat recognizable, so the trap will work. Isn't he putting himself in a bit too much danger? Ochiko asked. Couldn't he just let someone else do this, using these spiders? True, but then as soon as they figure out Midoriya isn't there, they're going to leave, Nizu said. Midoriya hopes his continued presence will help make sure they stick around. Yeah, that sounds like something he'd do. Bakugo and Todoroki at the same time, surprising the both of them for a second, before the two glared at each other. Regardless, Midoriya has no intention of dying, and several little surprises in the works to make sure this goes well. Nizu chuckled. I'm very excited. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX asked. This time she'd come to see Izuku in person, the two meeting in Izuku's office. We've done a good job rooting out potential spies from the army, but I'm not deluded enough to think we've gotten rid of all of them, Izuku explained. Not to mention, the majority of our troops are woefully ill-equipped to take care of foes like this. So I'd like to keep this operation down to more elite members of the army, as well as outside help. That being yourself, a few friends from the UA, some pro heroes, and some of my bodyguards, as well as some new members of our armies. Do you remember what I told you about more powerful allies? Suddenly, The door opened, and a young man stepped in. "Morning, sir." The man appeared to be mostly made of metal, with the only human parts of him being his face and white hair. Although he had a robotic eye patch, the rest of his body was made of black metal. Complicated but cool-looking robot parts. "This is Raiden. His real name is classified by his request, so please don't ask about it," Izuku said. "He's our first true success with project mechanization, and he'll serve as the leader of an elite task force that will soon be under the Midoriya Foundation Army, and he'll be joining us during the attack. Nice to have you. Hope you're worth the money those parts no doubt cost," Kata said, looking him over. "I'll try to make myself useful." Raiden chuckled. "Nice to meet you in general. Use my sword carefully." Speaking of swords, Izuku reached under his desk. "I have something for you." He then pulled a black sword, with a fractal embedded in the hilt. "This is yours," Izuku said, handing the weapon to his general. "The sword itself is mostly just a decoration. You could use it, but I don't see why you would. The main draw is the fractal. It simply increases the power of your flames, and thus the constructs you create." Kata smirked as she looked over the weapon. "And it's in my color. Boss, you spoil me. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX scientist, something fierce. This crystal is just far too advanced. Too chaotic, the flyman said. Any further attempts to try and replicate this will just dissolve into disaster and damage to our own property. Very expensive damage. Not to mention the cost of resources dash. What you're telling me is that I stole this from the Midoriya Foundation for nothing. Shredder shouted, his claws popping out, causing everyone to recoil in fear. And in not nothing, sir. The flyman stuttered. While recreating it is off of the table for now, we can use it to create something worthwhile. Why, you see, I've been analyzing the Midoriya Foundation's androids, and using these, I might be able to make something comparable to them. Comparable to those androids. How soon can you make it? And how many? Shredder asked. I've already been making some mock designs in my spare time. I just needed the final piece. It should take me a week. The man said. As for the amount, currently only one can be made. TCH, make it. Shredder ordered. And I want your most powerful machines, ready and able to strike at my command. Are you preparing another raid, sir? The scientist asked. Perhaps, Shredder said, before turning away and walking out of the lab. Or perhaps something greater. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX colors. The yellow ninja, Scorpion. The purple ninja, Rain. The blue ninja, Sub-Zero. The green ninja, Reptile. The only one of them who clearly had a mutant quirk, looking like a giant humanoid lizard with a razor-sharp maw. The black ninja, Cybot. And the gray ninja, leader of the Foot. The Shredder. What exactly has caused you to call us all back from our missions, Shredder? Rain asked, sounding very annoyed. It is not often that all 6 great heads of the Foot meet in one place. Reptile said, I assume this must have to do with the actions of your foolish, and now very dead, daughter, Cybot said. Hold your tongue, Cybot. Shredder hissed. If you're referring to my daughter entering us into a war with the Midoriya Foundation, do not blame her for that. Blame that accursed rat. Once he joined the Foundation, becoming our enemy was inevitable. And yet, despite that, you left the task of dealing with them to your daughter. Rain scoffed, when clearly she couldn't even handle the rat by himself. There is no point in complaining about events that cannot be changed, Scorpion spoke up. Shredder, what is your plan? I want all of our assets close to hand, to be ready to attack Midoriya as soon as an opportunity presents itself. Shredder revealed. Over-eagerness is what led your daughter to an early grave, Sub-Zero pointed out. And yet with each second, the boy grows stronger. Shredder pointed out. He can track teleportation, freely open portals himself, commands a powerful army, as well as 2 androids who command near all-might levels of power. Soon he'll be able to find us no matter where we hide, and he'll bring his full might down upon us. We need to kill him, and then dismantle his organization piece by piece. First him, then his scientists, then his generals, and so on. As much as I hate to admit it, you have a point. Rain said, but doing that is easier said than done. As you said, the boy can open portals wherever he pleases. If you don't kill him within seconds, he'll escape. Only if he has access to the facility which manages his teleportation, Shredder said. And my men have been working on infiltrating his ranks. And I've finally gotten some men working in that facility. They can take it over for a short while and keep him from getting away long enough for us to kill him. We simply need a good opportunity. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX looking up at Giza. Yes, the foot spies have been promoted and are ready to attempt sabotage. Giza said. Good. That should make the foot feel more comfortable to attack. Izuku said. The fact that Izuku could open portals when and wherever he wanted was always going to make his opponents more hesitant to commit to attacks, and even more hesitant to stick around when they do attack. So the solution to this was to make his enemies believe that he couldn't do that. While Izuku had gotten rid of most of the spies they'd been able to identify, he made certain not to get rid of all of them, as sometimes having enemy spies in your midst could be useful if you can use them to feed the enemy bad information. So he took a few of those spies and promoted them so they'd have access to the warp tech. Hence their enemies would believe they'd be able to shut down, destroy, or take over their ability to open portals. When in reality, the moment they attempted to do any of that, they would be immediately stopped and used to feed false information to the attackers. It was a pretty smart plan if Izuku said so himself, although there was of course one pretty big disadvantage, namely, putting himself directly in harm's way. Of course, pretty much everyone tried to talk him out of showing up on the battlefield directly, and even worse, staying on the battlefield. But there was an issue with that. Should the foot have someone with a quirk that could identify that Izuku wasn't there, they would just leave, therefore defeating the whole purpose of this operation. But Izuku was confident in his planning. He wasn't just gambling his life away. All right, the only thing left to do is wait. Izuku said. All right, Eri, I think it's time we started the real work, Rin said. He and Eri sat down on the couches in his private room. A room Izuku had given him specifically so he could have his sessions without having to use his office. Okay, Eri built up her resolve. She'd heard about this process from Izuku, and she'd known she'd be confronting some scary stuff. Oh, who was she kidding? She knew exactly what she was going to see. But this was her best chance to move past all that for good. And she wouldn't pass that up. She couldn't. I'm ready, Eri said, mustering up her determination. Rin smiled. What a strong-willed girl. All right, let's go to sleep. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Eri arrived. Hello. Eri greeted her. Rin had told her about Lavinza beforehand, so she wasn't surprised to see her. Lavinza smiled and pulled out a small glass. Here, I heard you liked apples, so I prepared some apple juice for you. It's nice to have something sweet before experiencing something bitter. Tea, thank you. Eri immediately took the glass and scarfed it down. It was so sweet and cold, it really did fill her with an extra confidence she really needed. Well then, let's not waste time, Rin said, standing up and getting ready to start the mission. Lavinza, do you have it ready? I do. It's not as bad as I feared. But, Lavinza looked sorrowful. It's still rather upsetting. I know. I'm prepared for that, Rin said, before looking at Eri. I already asked you, but I need to confirm it. Are you ready to face your past? Can I have another juice? Eri asked. Lavinza smiled and served her another juice, which Eri promptly gulped down with gusto. After slamming the glass back down, she took a deep breath and then gave Rin a determined look. I'm ready. She stood up, and the two of them walked to the back door. Rin opened the door, and the two of them entered, headed into an old, new hell. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX words Shai Hasaikai etched into it. The area around them wasn't much to speak about. A forest filled with dead trees, the skies covered in thick black clouds making it hard to see with how little light got through, and blackbirds cawing and flying around from wilted tree to wilted tree. A tomb. Rin was already thinking of several theories as to why this place appeared the way that it did. I guess Eri views the Shai Hasaikai as dead. Although if that was true, we might not have had to come here either. Gonna need to see more. Eri, on the other hand, was completely shocked. She'd heard that her cognition would distort the places she thought of, but she hadn't fully understood what that meant. She still didn't. So it was more than a bit beguiling to see that the Yakuza base had been turned into this. But that didn't change what she had to do. All right, let's go in, shall we? Rin said, going up to the tomb and opening the stone doors. Behind them was just a staircase, one so long that they couldn't see the bottom, and it was dimly lit, only bright by small, weak torches. Taking a deep breath, Eri followed Rin down the stairs, as they both descended into who knows what. The stairs truly went on for a while. The two descended for minutes without seeing the bottom, and with each step, it felt like it got colder and colder as the air grew stale. A suffocating feeling that Eri was all too familiar with. Why are these stairs so long? The place wasn't this deep underground, although it felt like it sometimes. Oh, Eri suddenly realized what Rin had meant. Because it felt like it was so far away, it became like this in my head. Did I feel like this place was a tomb? That feels right. They kept going a bit further down, until eventually, they finally reached the bottom. There they were met with a large room. Made of stone as one would expect, the dark, cold, stale environment didn't improve one bit when they entered. The room was mostly empty, the only thing inside being 3 large bird statues. Eri immediately got a bad feeling from those statues. Like they were watching her. Like they were alive. Before they could think about that, suddenly people ran in from the other side of the room. Birdmen. 8 humanoid crows, wearing black robes. Finally, we found her, said one of the birds looking at Eri. The key. We found the key. Call. The eternal sacrifice that will resurrect the shy Hasaki. Grab her, they shouted as all of them flew at them. Get ready, Rin shouted as he pulled out his weapons. Arsene appeared behind him in a burst of flames, stunning Eri for a second, before she turned focus back on the birdmen. Bang, bang, bang. Rin shot at the birdmen, while Arsene threw fire at them, taking out a few of them, while the rest of them descended on him. All except for one, which flew right at Eri. Eri immediately ran back. All the courage she'd built up vanished as she looked at the bird, and images of her past came bubbling up into her eyes. She ran towards the staircase, but the birdman was faster and flew over there first, blocking her exit. With no other option, Eri ran to the right, as the bird chased her, until eventually, she reached a wall. Eri turned around, only to see the birdman right on top of her, its wings spread out, blocking her from escaping. As it loomed over her, a menacing grin on its beak. Finally caught you. Yari. Suddenly Overhaul's voice came from the birdman, causing Eri to completely freeze up in terror. Eri. She recalled Overhaul, strapping her to a chair, leaving her powerless, as his hand came closer. Her and mind both Overhaul and the bird overlapped, as the bird backed her against the wall and reached for her. Eri's breath became rapid, her chest rising up and down rapidly, and yet her body only grew colder as she felt control over her limbs vanished, and she fell on her butt. It was time. It was time for her to die again. Eri, Rin shouted, his strong commanding voice cutting through the panic attack she was having for a moment. If only barely. You're not the person you were before. You're stronger now. You have people rooting for you. Show them, Eri. Show them who you are. What you became. Show them. What I am. Eri said through her hag breaths. Who am I? I'm Eri. Eri Midoriya. Eri thought, and immediately, something warm filled her. Midoriya. Yeah, I am a Midoriya. Just like Dad. And like my brothers and sisters. That's right, Eri. Now she heard Izuku's voice in her head. And the warmth continued to fill her body, so much so that she started to glow. You're my daughter. Eri Midoriya. You are loved. You are powerful, and you are free. Never forget that. We're all rooting for you, Eri. She heard Kyoka's voice. They mess with the Eri, they get the horn. Give it to them, Eri. She heard Kei now. Eri, 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 Eri. She heard the voices of her siblings in her head. Each one makes the light glow brighter and brighter. Aga. The birdman stumbled back, covering its eyes. Too much light. Right. Now I remember. Eri said, her breathing returning to normal. I'm not weak. Not anymore. And I'm going to get stronger. So get out of my way. The light turned into a fire that wrapped itself around Eri. Come out. Mr. Dantes. Eri shouted as she felt a name come into her head. Whoosh. The fire jumped off of her and took the form of a man. He was a tall and elegantly dressed man with long whitish silver hair, styled into a ponytail, and parted over one of his eyes. He wore black shoes with added purple and hints of gold, as well as black shoes, white gloves, and a long black cape. Humph. The persona aimed its palm at the Birdman, and white flames shot out, engulfing the Birdman completely. Ah! The Birdman shouted as it collapsed onto the floor, burnt to death. All of you, get away from Mr. Akira, Eri shouted, turning her attention to the rest of the Birdmen. Her persona formed several white fireballs and threw them at the Birdman that had been fighting Rin. The fireballs slammed into Birdman, burning them all to a crisp. Huh. That was all Rin said. Eri's persona grabbed her, and suddenly the two teleported in front of Rin. Are you okay, Mr. Akira? I'm fine. And it looks like you manifested your persona, Rin said, taking a look at Eri's persona. Edmond Dantes. I don't suppose you've read The Count of Monte Cristo? Eri shook her head and looked up at her persona. Is that where he's from? Yup. I guess your persona pulled a character from my subconscious rather than yours. Rin said. It happens sometimes. Crack. Crack. Suddenly, the two of them heard a cracking sound, and the two of them looked up at the statues. Cracks started appearing in the statues, as their heads turned to look at them. Rah! The birds cried, as they broke free of the stones and flapped their wings. Each bird was different. One bird was larger than the others, and entirely covered in crystals. Another bird had a giant beak, with sharp teeth, and spit leaking from it. And the last bird had human hands instead of talons. Well, looks like little Eri thinks she's tough, cried one of the birds. Guess we better show her her place. Caw. Immediately the sharp-toothed bird rushed at them, trying to devour them. They teleported out of the way using Eri's persona, causing the bird to crash into a wall. The crystal bird rushed at them, its footsteps shaking the room as they approached. Rin and both personas opened fire at the crystal bird, only for their attacks to bounce off it. That's annoying, Rin said, as once again, Eri's persona teleported them out of the way of their attack. Got you, shouted the bird with the hands, dive-bombing at them, coming to grab Eri. Bang! Ack! The hand bird cried out in pain as Rin shot it in the eye. Arsene and Dante shot fire at it, setting the bird ablaze. Ah! Ah! The hand bird cried as it died on the floor, burning even still. Well, at least that one wasn't a problem, Rin said before he saw the sharp-toothed bird take another dive at them. Watch out! Eri used her persona to teleport them away before the bird could bite down on them. That is a damn good persona power, Rin noted, before looking at his two remaining foes. And it gives me an idea. Eri, I'm going to distract the crystal bird, and I want you to get the other bird to attack it. Understood. Okay. Eri then used her persona to teleport them, right in front of the crystal bird, before teleporting herself away. Hey, over here, Rin called, making sure the crystal bird's attention was on him. Slam, slam, slam. The crystal bird immediately started pecking at him, attempting to strike him down while Rin dodged each attack. Meanwhile, the sharp-toothed bird flew up and got in position to charge at Rin once again, only to notice Eri, who just teleported on top of the crystal bird's head. Seeing its real target, the bird immediately charged at Eri and the crystal bird. Crack! Eri teleported away just in time, and the sharp-toothed bird bit into the crystal bird's head, breaking through the crystals and shattering its skull, killing it. Now, Arsene, Rin once again summoned his persona and unleashed a huge ball of black fire, right at the sharp-toothed bird. Boom! The ball slammed into the bird, causing it to explode, destroying the last bird. Eri appeared next to Run and jumped up in celebration. We did it. We Immediately, she collapsed onto one knee, and her persona vanished. I don't feel so good. That happens after you first summon a persona, Rin explained, picking her up. Especially using as much energy as you did. I'd say we'd made good progress today. Let's end it here. Okay, Eri said with a pout. She wanted to just finish this already. But given how absolutely exhausted she felt, she could tell that wasn't in the cards. She summoned her persona again, and then everything went white. Ugh. Rin groaned as he opened his eyes. Apparently, Eri could just teleport them out of the cognitive realm altogether. You learn something new every day, Rin thought, before looking at Eri, who was getting up albeit very slowly, rubbing her eyes and yawning as she did. How do you feel? Tired, Eri said. but also good. She'd been worried that the moment she started this process, she'd simply collapse from fear. But she actually managed to go into a palace and take on her inner demons. It was a big relief. Good. We can continue going through the palace next time, although it'll probably take us a few attempts to fully get through it. Rin told her, don't try rushing through it, or else you might bite off more than you can chew. Got it. Yes, sir. Eri sighed. She really did want to finish this as soon as possible, but she knew it was best to listen to the experts, and she was too tired to argue even if she wanted to. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Please make sure to support the writer. And don't forget to like, sub, and leave a comment. Till next time.